sound like it's in double time.
Coming to you live from the Helm House, the popular cinema podcast. I'm your co-host Kane,
And I'm Bill.
and welcome to episode 44.
Yo.
Can you tell me why you're talking during the opening music?
I just wanted to change it up a little bit. You know, shake up our plan. Like to keep you on your toes.
Welcome to episode 44. Bill is in studio for the Guardians of Galaxy weekend. Whoop whoop!
What?
I can already hear you pouring your drinks in the
I
west wing of the studio.
like my Sunday's cocktails. What can I say?
Anyway, it is early in the morning. We're trying to get the podcast rolling so we can get it in the can and get it out.
I think we're doing good.
All right. So we have a lot of things to discuss. Let's not dilly-dally because we still got to have breakfast. You're hanging down there with my interns, Scoots and Fergs.
Yeah, Fergus is having an allergy attack.
Yeah, well, I have a feeling this is going to be really like a guerrilla-style podcast. There's probably going to be a lot of ancillary noises and...
You want to know something that's real disgusting? Ferg just, had a sneeze, right? Well, Ferg just sneezed, okay, and shot snot all over my Guardians of the Galaxy blankie, and now he's licking it up.
Okay, all right. Well, that's...
Kind of special retard is this dog?
Speaking of that, you know what I've been trying to do lately? I didn't inform you since you've been up here this weekend, is I've been trying to increase my vocabulary.
Is it vocabulary or vocabulary?
That's the way we speak over in the hood. So I just, what do you say? Do you say for intensive purposes or for all intents and purposes?
It's for all intent and purposes.
I've probably been saying intensive purposes for like forever.
Probably.
So anyway, my new words are austere,
Okay.
ostentatious,
Okay.
and I came up with another one, but I can't remember it.
Are you is this some kind of brain stretching exercise? Are you adding a word to your vocabulary every day or?
Yeah, I've been trying to incorporate it in there to expand it. I feel like when I have these debates with you, I kind of delve back into calling you just an ass and a fuck face and things of that nature. So I feel like I just want to expand my vocab so I can call you troglodyte,
Right.
Things of that nature.
Excellent.
Spice it up a little bit.
Right. It's always good to add words.
Bill, has it been a good movie weekend for you?
It's been an excellent movie weekend for me.
How have the accommodations been?
Excellent. I'm very impressed with the level of service that this hotel has provided me on this trip go round. So I hope that we can keep this up in the future because I was quite comfortable in my accommodations.
Ooh, nice.
Everything met standards.
Now, I don't know if I have anything. By the way, I used the sound plan to help us get our sounds.
Sure.
And apparently, after 15 more uses, they're going to start charging us.
Of course. How much?
I don't know. It's like $50, but we'll have to shake down our
$50?
sponsors.
What? I thought you were going to be I don't know, it's like $9.99. $50. I think we can live without the sounds for $50, frankly.
I don't think I can live without the sounds. I mean, I kind of like I don't think anybody else. I don't know if I really got a lot of positive feedback from the 3-minute blitzkrieg. I thought I really enjoyed that.
Well, since we only get one person giving us any feedback, perhaps you just wasn't as enamored with it as you were.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think this might be. This is the sound that you gave us?
Yeah. I think it is.
Yeah. All right. So this is going to be a little bit of stream of consciousness. I think we have a rough outline of some of the topics we're going to be discussing today. So for our audience members, please bear with us here. Bill,
Yes.
Phase 4. Anyway, I read an article that talked about that we're kind of nearing this whole Marvel universe is coming to sort of not to an end, but a culmination of all their movies with this Infinity War. And I think at the end of it, Kevin Feige said we're going to have like 22 movies into this whole long story, which is amazing. But at the end of Infinity War, you would assume they would start their phase 4, but he's unsure about this. If there even be a phase 4 or if they're going into a different direction. One, I have to applaud them for getting the 22 movies in this long projected story. But what do you think about this? Where do you want them to go?
You know, quite honestly, the phases don't really make a whole lot of sense to me anyway, because there doesn't seem to be any rhyme or reason as to like how or what defines a phase, other than if you consider everything from Iron Man 1 through Avengers 1 would be phase 1. And then continuing, I think, what was the first movie after Avengers 1? We got
Oh, please.
in my head. You know what? I have a whole list of these. I know exactly when they were released, so I'm going to pull that up really quickly, so that we can figure out exactly. You know, it helps to figure out what you're talking about sometimes when you're spewing your nonsense. I'm talking about
Yeah, that's
myself
what.
here.
Do,
So,
do, do, do,
wow, really? I could have been better
do.
prepared. That's true. I'm not going to lie.
Boop, 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 boop,
Okay,
boop,
hold on. I'm going to find my Marvel Cinematic Universe picture folder, because this is
do,
very helpful
do,
that
do.
I can
Well, listen.
actually
I mean, I kind of
do.
like the idea of the phase one, two, three. I like the moniker of it. I don't know if it's like business speak, but it has this air of confidence that they know what they're doing and they have a plan and it's long term. It gives me some sort of security blanket that they have a long term direction and not that they're just throwing crap against the wall.
Right. Listen,
And
I'm all down for the long-term projection, but what I'm saying is the actual division of the phases doesn't follow any kind of like common sense for me. For example, if you go with phase 1, it's Iron Man 1 through Avengers 1, and then phase 2 starts with Iron Man 3. So it's like I don't understand where the phases, how that works, and then phase 2 ends with Ant-Man 1. Phase 3 begins with Captain America 3. I don't know. It just seems like there's really kind of willy-nilly. I mean, if they're going to define them as specific phases, meaning they have one story here and, you know, they want to tell a trilogy within that phase, then I would understand it. You know, I just think, like I said, the phases don't really serve that great of a purpose in my mind. And if they're going to eschew or spew the phase formula, then that seems fine to me. I just wonder what they're going to replace it with.
okay. So it never made sense to you.
It doesn't really, because they're not really clearly defined as any sort of like, um, you know, encapsulated thing. Like I say, they sort of divide up trilogies of movies between phases. So there's, you know, like I said, I don't understand the point of starting phase 2 with an Iron Man 3 movie. It's the third movie. Wouldn't you think that would encompass part of phase 1 if it's the culmination of the entire Iron Man story?
I got
We're
you. You're
phase 2
you're,
isn't-
you're more concerned that it does, at least to your eye, but whatever behind the scenes, that the chronological order that they should be going in doesn't really match up.
Right, it doesn't really. And so therefore I don't really understand the purpose of them. But I mean, you know, if they're going to move beyond the phases, like I said, it doesn't really bother me because again, they don't make a lot of sense to me. But I just wonder, like, are they going to then just start telling stories, you know, like the Star Wars way, where you do prequels and sequels and in between quels or what have you? I just wonder what the next.
You know, the 22 movies at the end of this Avengers 4 movie, that I'm reading about is the Incredible Hulk within those 22 movies.
Yes, of course.
This is a hell of a run by them. And I look forward to once Avengers 4 is done, is looking back and putting in order like the financials for each movie and
Right.
seeing where they fall. And
I
just,
think
I mean, what's
I
that?
ac- I think I actually have a list of, financially speaking, the Marvel movie, like the amounts of money they've made. I will send this to you right now in a message. Oh wait, you don't have your.
No,
I'll email it
I
to you.
left all my other devices so I can devote my attention fully to this podcast.
All right, so I'm going to send this message to you that says here, and therefore it will have the financials of the Marvel Cinematic Universe to date. Um, uh, Avengers 1 is the highest grossing, followed by Age of Ultron, Iron Man 3, Captain America Civil War, and Guardians of the Galaxy 1. Those are the top five.
Yeah, okay. Well, it'll be interesting where the other movies that come out that fall along that spectrum. But I think in terms of telling one long story, it's amazing. It's amazing because normally you have like a they're we're going to move on, but they have this method that seems traditionally that if you're going to do a series, it's always like a trilogy. That seems to be the going thing. I mean, Harry Potter, Hunger Games, a little bit different. Twilight, where you started to get like the ending movie was broken into two, so instead of three, it's become four. But certainly to be able to tell a connected story, if you will, over 22, 21, whatever you want to call it, it's never been done, I would argue, and it's such a great way to go in terms of keeping people invested in your property long term.
Right. I mean, I agree with you. I personally feel somewhat. I would not. I don't want to say disappointed. I mean, I love the MCU, but in some ways, I feel like all their talk of interconnectedness, especially between the TV series and it's all connected between the movies, that's very tertiary. And even amongst the movies, in a lot of ways, the connections seem tertiary. I wish it was actually more connected than the way they have done it now. Now I understand the reasons why they sort of keep everything sort of isolated in its own little island in a lot of cases, but I kind of wish they would be more interconnected. I mean, it's awesome when you get to the big team up movies like even Civil War, where they had all the characters from the previous movies sort of combined. But in between those big tentpole, like tentpoles of the tentpoles, if you will, like Avengers, um, and Avengers 2 and Civil War and Infinity War, between those, they really sort of it's weird because I mean I understand this is what they do in the comics too. You have the main title and the hero just fights his own battle, and then you have the annuals or whatever where everybody gets together and then they all go their separate ways again. But when the universe is this large and it's they all come together for one event and then they go separate, it becomes a question of, well, why don't, when you're having like these big individual movie things, like we just watched Doctor Strange last night, and clearly Doctor Strange is not the perfect example, but because he's a new hero and he doesn't really know the other people yet. But you kind of wonder, like, if the Avengers are out there, in the world, if you will, and there's a thing like a giant um, celestial being or whatever is trying to invade our universe, and there's like this big explosion of the Hong Kong sanctum. Like, are the Avengers just like, well, I guess somebody over there will handle it. We're busy doing our other shit over here. You kind of wonder where are the Avengers when these things happen?
Yes, they're on Venice Beach, sitting there going, "When you pay me, I'll show up."
I mean, I guess, but I don't know. So I kind of wish that they would sort of address that issue sometimes more than, I understand that the hero is the hero of his own movie, but I kind of think as the world continues to get bigger and there's more and more heroes in it, they sort of need to maybe address that issue at some point. I don't know. Maybe
Okay.
they're in a different dimension this week, and so they aren't available to save the Hong Kong Sanctum. But somebody needs to say something.
You know, I'm listening to you, and I'm hoping that there's going to be no double feedback.
Why?
This studio's like Swiss cheese. It's Swiss cheese around here.
Okay. Well, I don't hear
I
anything. You
what? Well, no, but I'm hoping that I can hear you talk
through the
in
door,
the West Wing,
right?
and I also have you coming through my speakers. So what I'm hoping for is that the speakers don't pick up what I can hear.
Right. Yeah, I get you.
Oh, I got a couple birds over here at the studio. They're peering in, looking at me right now. How cute is that?
Really.
You know, I'm a lover of animals. That's what I realize.
Okay.
Except for pit bulls. I
Really.
got no love for
Oh,
pit bulls.
oh, you think they're bully dogs? You think they want to come and eat your dogs?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
that's exactly right. I'm sorry, I have to discriminate. Listen, I try to, what's the word? I don't know what the word is.
The word is news. Stay
All
on
right,
target.
Bill. You'll be happy to know that there's been release date announced for your M. Night Boys movie. So the sequel to Split has been it's coming out on January 18th of 2019. You think you can make it that long?
Yes. And if the world is still here, I'll be there. But it's also been titled, and the title of it is Glass, which, as anybody who's seen Unbreakable 1 will know, is the name of Samuel L. Jackson's character, Mr. Glass. And Samuel L. Jackson has been confirmed as being in Glass, bringing his role of Elijah back, as well as Bruce Willis as David Dunn, as well as the girl who played Casey in Split, and James McAvoy as the Horde. Can you say Shyamalana Universe? Love it. Give it to me now.
That's going to be a big hit for him.
Yes, and especially considering it's probably only going to cost $10 million, it's going to be an even bigger hit.
Okay. Well, I'm glad they're fast tracking that, and I'm looking forward to that to the conclusion.
Well, this is,
Uh,
I mean, it's the combination of this Unbreakable trilogy that they, now has spanned 2 decades. So as a fan of the original Unbreakable, this has always been sort of a fantasy of mine that I would get to go back to that universe. And after so long, you kind of give up hope that it'll ever happen. And then to have Split released as sort of like a backdoor sequel to Unbreakable and a huge, amazing surprise that it connects all the way back to that first movie, and then have that be so successful. And now they're going to conclude that story with all of these characters from both of these films. It's just hell yeah. Hell to the yes.
I'm very happy for you.
Why? You like Split and you like Unbreakable. I'm happy for you
Yeah,
too.
Split's growing on me, and so yes, I'm looking for the trifecta and where he's going to go with it. I'm actually an M. Night fan. I think he's a very good storyteller. I think he's a very good director. I sometimes think he gets lost in a few things here, but otherwise, he's a talent. I mean, like I said, I've always wanted him just to stay in the horror genre. I think he could really make a killing over there, but the guy's got bigger goals in mind, apparently.
Well, I just hope, I don't want to sound like so like blockbuster brained, but I am, and so I might as well just be what I am. I, you know, Unbreakable wasn't a movie that really cost a huge amount of money and didn't have a huge amount of special effects. So it's not that. I hope that there's, some kind of satisfactory conclusion to this story where, you have David really ascending to the level of being like Superman level hero for this world that they've built. And that, if they're going to pit, these heroes against these villains, that we're going to see that visually represented well. that doesn't necessarily mean there has to be special effects, but there needs to be some kind of like payoff.
Okay.
And I hope that that happens. I imagine it will, but
Well, this is interesting. I know this has probably been out there for years, Bill, but apparently, do you remember He-Man, Masters of the Universe?
I do. I have the original He-Man in my Blu-ray collection.
I thought you were going to say like the original toy or something.
No, the movie. But I
I,
was I was a fan of the original show back in the early days, but I didn't follow it all the way through.
I mean, honestly, the way you said it, it's just hilarious. You're acting like you were holding. You're like this. Yes, I have the original. I mean, I'm sitting here with bated breath. I mean, original toy.
Wow.
What? You're like, I got the Blu-ray. Wow.
I mean, I'm a fan of that. I'm a fan of that movie. A lot of people aren't, but I do like that movie. So
The one starring Dolph Lundgren as He-Man.
yes. Are you getting any kind of weird like it sounds like you're breaking up over here on my speaker now?
No, I'm not.
I don't know. This concerns me because the sound quality does not sound great.
No, I don't think I'm worried about the sound quality, Bill. What I'm worried probably is about the double feedback. That's all.
I'm going to unplug my mic and plug it back in and see what happens. Hold on.
And here we go with the technical difficulties.
Are you still there?
I'm still here, my friend.
Okay. I'm just like you just sound like really broken up, like we have a bad cell phone connection.
I don't sound broken up, and I do not have a bad cell phone connection.
I know, I'm just saying that's what it sounds like.
No, I just lost you.
You did?
Yes,
Am I back?
you are now. Quit fucking around with your microphone.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm just going to hope for the best then. Let's just plow through.
You're messing around with the microphone.
I am not. I'm just sitting here. I'm not touching the microphone.
Whatever you're doing now, you've caused the delay. I can hear you downstairs, and then it's like somehow like there's a 5-second delay. It would be very cool if we did have a 5-second delay. So if you said anything offensive, like the prequels are great, I could just cut it right out. But I can't.
Wow. Are we still? I don't have a delay. I mean, I hear you fine, and it doesn't sound like you're delayed to me.
This is why we can't fly with eagles right now. This is why we're not listed as podcasts to listen to, the top 10 for 2017, right here.
This is why we're not. Yeah, this is why we're not in the podcast awards.
Like I was saying, so this Masters of the Universe, apparently they actually have a release date for it now. If you're all into He-Man and She-Ra and all this other crap,
Yeah.
It's set for December 18th, 2019. You think it's going to happen?
I don't know. They had a director who was McGee. You remember McGee, right? He directed some of the Charlie's Angels movies.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay.
But he dropped out. So, I mean, they're gonna have to find a new director. I imagine they have no casting news yet. So I don't know. I'm skeptical that this movie is going to happen on that release date, but we'll see.
You know, I watched He-Man as a cartoon. You know, I remember watching it when it had the Battle Cats. You had Skeletor. It was kind of cool. What was that? Was that back in the 80s? It was probably early 80s.
Yeah, it was like mid-80s.
I mean, it was a cool cartoon. And then they did the Dolph Lundgren movie. And it's, I mean, very cheesy.
Yes, it's everything you hate about movies.
Wait, what's that?
It's everything you hate about movies, but
Well, I do, but it's got that. There's a certain charm to it, if you will, looking back on it being like 1987, because we're all doing certain things back then, the birth of MTV, blah blah blah. But I don't know if a He-Man movie in 2019. I just don't know how that would even look like. I can't imagine somebody rolling around in a loincloth and bare-chested. I don't know. It seems kind of.
Well,
dare I say, a little bit gay?
wow, that is so politically incorrect. But I will follow that up with I don't have a problem with seeing a dude walk around bare chested and sweaty. So bring it on.
Okay, yeah. You know, the tone of that, it's just kind of weird. Can you just, I mean, maybe if it was in a beach setting, but otherwise, can you just imagine, like, you know, just walking around in a loincloth with just your chest out there, just kind of rolling through and making battles, riding a battle cat? It's just a weird visual. It kind of works in a cheesy 80s fashion, but if you try to,
I don't see it.
I'm having a hard
It's it's Gladiator. It's they did that Hercules movie. I'm thinking Kellen Lutz is perfect for this part. So I think physically speaking, he embodies like the look of He-Man really well. So if they're going to go with anybody that's like established in any kind of way, and I think he was actually attached to it at some point. I don't know.
All right, so you're talking Kellen Lutz, who did what? Hercules. He was in the
Right,
Twilight films. He was
right,
also in Expendables. You're
right.
talking that Kellen Lutz.
Yeah. But physically
So
speaking,
you don't want the movie to be successful. Is that what you're telling me?
wow. I'm just saying, like, I don't know if He-Man requires a whole like level of Oscar caliber actor in the first place. So as long as he can stand there and look good, it's kind of half the job's already done.
I will point out that this movie is being made by Sony.
Ouch.
Which kind of leads me into a secondary point, Bill, that there was an article that came out saying that Sony Pictures had posted a loss of about $719 million for the previous year.
Right.
Um, I guess they were in the red because of certain of the performances of certain movies like Ghostbusters and the Magnificent Seven remake, Passengers only fared, I guess, somewhat better. Um, they did have a hit with Sausage Party, which I enjoyed watching. You can see that on Netflix right now.
Yeah, but that's not enough to sustain a studio.
Yeah. So Sony's been having a little bit of trouble in their movie division, and it's been a rough start for them already with the Smurfs, The Lost Village, Life that starred our boy Ryan Reynolds.
Made $2.
What's that?
Made $2.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, I know 2 years is a long way, but somehow getting green lighting Masters of the Universe, He-Man, I have to admit, if we're in the red as a studio, I would not be confident about sitting there green lighting that one. Now, Sony does have some other movies that are on the horizon. They have the Emoji Movie. They've got Spider-Man, Homecoming, thanks to Marvel. They've got The Dark Tower and Jumanji coming.
I mean, I don't know if you do, but do any of these sound like Smash Productions? I mean, The Dark Tower is probably the only thing that really sounds like it's possible as, being some kind of breakout hit. But I mean, even that's kind of iffy, I think.
Yeah, but they're even. I mean, the marketing just started to ramp up for a movie that's set to be released in like less than 3 months.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I don't know what you're doing down there. It almost feels like you've got some sort of crabs and you're scratching and you're moving around. Are you doing aerobics?
No, I'm talking directly into the microphone. But I unplugged my headset and I'm talking into the speaker microphone on my iPhone, and I just wonder if that will sound better because I'm concerned now that the feedback issue is going to happen because your responses are coming through my phone, and I wonder if the microphone is going to pick up your responses coming from my phone.
You know, have to take a deep breath sometimes with you.
I'm just saying, like, we should probably have done a little trial run of this, but let's just hope for the best.
You always say stuff like that, but we're already deep into the show, and then your brain starts to click on, and you're like, huh. maybe we should do. You should have thought of that before at the
You're,
production.
aren't you the technical wizard of this show, this production? Aren't you the one that's supposed to have all your shit on lock? I'm just the talent who shows up, gets paid, and goes home.
I try, but there's a lot of pressure you put on me because you're like, TikTok, daddy's got to go home. And so
I'm
I
not
try to
putting
get
pressure on
everything.
you. You don't see my bags packed in at the door. I'm laying down here on the couch. Ferg's laying on me. I got my blanket on. I'm not in that much of a hurry that we couldn't take 5 minutes and do a trial. Next time we'll do that.
This is so sad. I feel bad for our audience members.
I
This
just hope
show
it
is-
works. That's all.
It is working. It's recording. The only issue that's going to happen is going to probably be some sort of feedback, maybe, or double feedback. I know I sound wonderful.
Well, you sound like shit down here, but that's, I don't know, I'm having some kind of issue with my phone, so.
It's the soothing tones of Barry White. There you
Yeah,
go.
hardly, if only, but okay.
My
All right.
girl likes my baritone voice. She's like, yeah. The
What
velvet
exactly
tip.
about you does your girlfriend not like? That's what I'm more interested in. When she comes down to earth with the rest of us humans that have to put up with your nonsense, then we'll talk.
So I think also that Sony's also trying to get some sort of other like their collection of superhero films like Venom and the Black Cat and Silver Sable. I'm just saying this article doesn't really paint a very good picture of some of their things in the pipeline. I know there's more out there, but it's a little bit underwhelming right now. And
Well, they're not having a great year, but then neither is anyone, honestly, that isn't named Disney. So,
well, what are you seeing long term then here? Does Disney have to run the whole Marvel? I mean, it has to run the whole movie universe now?
I mean, they practically are. So, yeah, I mean, if you look at the release schedule for this year and next year, I mean, at least 4 or 5 of the 12 movies that are being released by Disney or some subsidiary of Disney. So I just say Disney at this point just buys all the studios and just, you know, owns everything. It's where they're going anyway. I'm just saying we just cut through the bullshit and give it to them now.
Okay. So, Masters of the Universe, thumbs up, thumbs down?
I'm looking forward to it, but again, we're so far away from it, and there's so little news about it, other than a release date that they've sort of locked in. That it's hard to get super excited about something that doesn't really have a whole lot of development news.
Well, Bill, since we're here, we might as well just like flow right into it. The Dark Tower trailer came out starring Matt McConaughey and Idris Elba. That was just released. We were all sitting at bated breath at our computer to watch this. What did you think?
I thought it was really good. I thought it was fantastic. It gave me a sense of mythology, of world building, and also Idris Elba as a lead is something that I think is well deserved, and I think is different than everything else that's out there right now. I think it looks exciting, and before this trailer, I wasn't really super giving a shit about the Dark Tower, but now I'm all in. So it sold me.
I felt that this trailer, I think in our conversations, it has to come out strong and knock your socks off since, the movie is set to be released in 3 months. It's got to have those YouTube hits. It's got to have that, I don't know what they call it. It's got to have the Twitter reactions, the Twitter feed, whatever they do to measure in the PR departments, like what do they talk about? You're going viral. It's got to go viral. And I don't know if I felt that strongly about it. I was very excited about it, and I still would like to see the movie, but I don't think the trailer, let's say, knocked my socks off. I think the last trailer that probably did such a thing like that was probably Suicide Squad. And I was hoping it would be to that level where I was just kind of mesmerized. And I didn't dislike it, but I feel like I need a little bit more. But you can't go wrong with Idris Elba as a lead. And I'm on the Stephen King kick right now, so I'm listening to the audio book of Needful Things.
Right.
And I got it in the queue. So since this is a Stephen King, based on a Stephen King novel, eh, I'm in. I don't know if the trailer really kind of blew it out of the water for me, though.
I mean, I
There's
don't
one or two
understand.
scenes.
I don't understand why you. I mean, Idris Elba is the epitome of bad ass in that trailer, and I mean, everything he did was just like awesome. I mean, with the guns and the bullets sliding into the barrel of the gun, and then he's using the gun without using his, aim with his eyes, and he's like, I don't shoot with my eyes, I shoot with my heart. I mean, it just looks so cool.
What does that mean?
It means he uses his feelings. It's like Jedi speak for, use the Force, Luke. It's that kind of thing.
Then why do you even use a gun? Why don't you just leave the bullets in your belt and then just pull them out with your force and then just throw them?
Jay, why try to break it down that far? He just uses the gun or the bullets to, aim his power with. Maybe he needs a little bit of physical to help with his, I don't know, mental, whatever. It's just cool. It's awesome that he could do that. Shoot through like windows and doorways and, you know, shoot that guy that was trying to run away with the kid. That's just cool. That's fucking cool.
All right. I'm a fan of Idris Elba, obviously from The Wire and from Luther and other things. Idris Elba, I would love him to be a James Bond. He is the man. He's physically gifted. He's got the height. He's got the voice. He's got the look. Idris Elba is not the problem. The casting is not the problem for the Dark Tower trailer. It looked a little bit austere.
So, if you're using that word in the correct way that I think you are, you're saying it looks a little stuffy or a little hoity-toity?
No, I'm using it to refer to being like stark, a little bit empty.
Empty. You have a world being built, a universe, a mythology being explained to you, all in like a minute and 30 seconds about a tower that's somehow sitting between our world and the Dark Tower world that's holding like the world together. You have this kid who's got some kind of like psychic ability to, travel or somehow ascend to different levels of this world and that world. And then he's got some kind of like, I don't know, telekinesis or whatever. And then you've got Idris Elba walking around saying, Matthew McConaughey is actually worse than the devil, and I'm going to stop him. And he's, like he's the gunslinger. And it just looks like old Western meets like Lord of the Rings meets like Time Bandits. I don't know exactly what it is you wanted, but it gave me everything I didn't know I wanted and more.
It has an epic feel. They tried to cut down on the humor a little bit so it didn't come across as being some sort of just general formula action movie. But there's some of the scenes that they showed in the trailer, like sort of like the expansive area that they're walking and sort of like a desert type of area, like a wasteland. There were some things where it just looked like there was just nothing there. And you're just like, oh, it wasn't necessarily visually overwhelming. At least when you're talking like Lord of the Rings, they're down in New Zealand. At one point, you see snow-capped mountains. Next thing you know, you see lush fields. Maybe I don't know enough about the Dark Tower mythos, but the way it was projected in the 2-minute trailer, it just looked like they were just like, oh, you need to eat a burger. You're looking kind of thin. I mean, like...
you're such a jaded fanboy. You've seen so much shit that you don't know when you're looking at something that looks awesome anymore.
Is that what it was? So I have to. It's my fault for actually paying and going to see these movies here. That I've seen too much now. Now I can't appreciate what they give me. Now it's my fault.
You've seen too much shit on your Netflix queue that has burned you out, that you can't tell when something looks awesome or not, because they're always showing you some shit that you think looks awesome. Then you sit there and watch the movie and you're like, oh, this sucks, and I'm pulling it out of my DVD player. Yeah, I think you're like one of those movie critics that's like, oh, everything sucks.
Wow. Okay. Well, let's see here. By the way, you sound like who's that character that Putty Tat? Who's the Putty Tat character? Who's that Putty Tat?
Are you talking about Sylvester?
Is that Sylvester? That's what you sound like right now. You sound like Sylvester down there.
What does that mean?
It sounds like when you're now switched from your headphones to speaking into your phone. So when you get a little bit excited down there, you're pronouncing things. You go like this.
Oh, okay. So it's like my breath is speaking into the microphone. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Well, I'll
you
plug
sound
the
like
headset
Sylvester.
back and then we'll see if that helps.
Do you think the younger generation? You know what I miss? I miss the Looney Tunes. I loved the Looney Tunes growing up.
You know, they sell those on DVD now. Probably.
Yeah, I think I long for the day where the cartoons were only available when you woke up on Saturday morning and you watched them. So if you slept in, you missed them. Like you had one shot at 8 o'clock. Are you messing around with your phone?
I am not.
Then you have another shot like at 9 o'clock to watch something else. And you went from the Looney Tunes to the Smurfs to Dungeons and Dragons. This would be the Saturday morning routine. And if you missed it, there was no DVR. And I mean, the fact that I have access at any time to the show makes me not want to have access to it.
This is exactly what I'm talking about. You give people too much and they can't handle it. It's like you have 24-hour access to any cartoon you want, and then you don't want it anymore.
Yes. I guess it's sad. It's sad in a way.
It's a little sad.
I think we're going to add a new segment to our ever-growing segment colony. And I'd like to call this one, how about, we'll have to come up with a fancy name for it, but we'll call it like a photo release, or release of the photos, or...
That's a fancy name.
What's that?
That's a fancy name. Release of the
Fantasy.
photos. That sounds like a segment I'd want to watch.
Oh, wow. I don't know why you always have to be so nasty.
Okay, so
I think when we upload the podcast, I always have to make sure that I click the button that says explicit on there. I always fear that somehow I forget, and then some sort of mother's just driving down the street with her child in there, and the kid's like, Mommy, I want to listen to some sort of superhero movie podcast. And they're like, oh, here's one, PCP. Looks like it's for all members. It's not explicit. And then you put it on, and then you're just like, God damn it!
I don't know. Can we get kicked out of like podcasts? Bird. Can we get kicked out of like doing podcasts from not putting our explicit label on our show?
I don't know. Ooh, before we get into our photo release section, do you want to talk about the stories where you got the cease and desist letters from your cable company?
No, I really don't. So let's just move on.
I mean, that would be a great story. Our fans want to know how to dodge the man.
Yeah, I'm not in the mood to share that particular story today.
Are you going to be willing to do the podcast from jail, or are you going to be like, certainly we have to wait for you to get out or something?
Yeah, listen.
I look forward to me asking you questions, and you go like this. My lawyer has instructed me that I'm not supposed to answer any questions regarding that incident.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm feeling like right now.
All right, back to the photo release. A couple photos were set free for us to view and to allegedly, I would argue, ostensibly, how about that we should be getting excited for the upcoming product. The one photo we're going to talk about first is the release of the Inhumans photo of the whole cast in their costumes. All 5 of them.
6.
Or is it 6?
It's 6.
Okay, I can't count. I have a GED, Bill.
Wow.
What did you think of the photo? The picture, the photograph.
90% of the photo looks fine. Um, the one issue I have with it is the woman who's portraying the character of Medusa looks rather, I'll say, odd. Um, her hair is very boxy, and her head is very boxy looking. She looks very stern and not really what I imagine the physical representation of the comic character would look like. The comic character is very dynamic looking. Her hair is obviously like this big mane of like, I don't know, wild and crazy hair in a cool way. Um, but the hair in the photograph is very straight and it's very high on her forehead, and her head just looks very square. It just isn't what I imagine that the physical representation of that character would look like. And so, in that aspect, it's sort of disappointing. But everybody else looks good. I think Black Bolt, even though he doesn't have a mask, which I understand, looks fine. I think his costume sort of evokes the comic book without actually looking like the exact replica of the comic book. And I don't know the other characters from Adam, but they all look, decent, except for that Medusa. That Medusa really needs to be worked on, and I hope they do.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I guess technically, I assume a lot for the people that are listening to the show that they know who this stuff is. Do you think we should ever get background before, like we go into a subject, or should we assume that the people who are listening know somewhat what we're talking about?
Well, I mean, it's kind of all over Twitter. I don't know if anybody has Twitter or would not have been able to see the photo, but
You always like somehow the people have like they're following the same people you're following. I mean,
no one follows Entertainment Weekly. That's who put the picture up.
oh, okay, all right. Well, it's the superhuman family essentially, the humans, and they're led by Black Bolt, whose superpower is that what is it? If he opens his mouth, he can shatter things.
He's like a sonic scream. Is that the gist of it?
Oh, there you go.
I don't.
There you go.
Obviously.
By the way, I think the photo that they released is supposed to, I think, mirror a comic book photo, um, an old comic book photo, which has Black Bolt in the front and them kind of fanning out from behind them with the rest of the members of the royal family. I have to admit that I'm not a fan of some of these photo releases of superhero characters. I think I would prefer more artistic or actiony photos because sometimes it just looks so damn basic at a time. It almost looks like somebody bought these costumes out of like a Walmart, or there's some sort of cosplay convention in town, and you're just walking around collecting all sorts of wares, and there's people. I would be like, the, either the costume has to be something that's made by Versace. If it's not, then maybe you should be doing some sort of artist rendering and then sending that out to the masses. Because inevitably, it just looks kind of cheap.
I don't. I don't think that it requires you to do some kind of Gianni Versace thing. What I think though is that it's strange that they have, like we were talking the other day on the phone, Instagram filters on your iPhone that can give you a better representation than some of these photographs do. So with these marketing budgets that they have, that these network shows and these big movies have, I can't believe that they can't release pictures that seem more dynamically exciting to get you amped up about the show, other than just some people standing in a static pose, which they could just do so much more. And it seems like I don't know if these marketing people are just like out of high school, or it just seems like if you were somebody, a network who's investing in millions of dollars in the production of a show, or a studio investing millions of dollars into the release of a movie, but they could come up with some more exciting shit than some of these photographs that they release as like the first photos. And I understand that they want to keep their shit on lock and they don't want to give you too much up front or whatever. They act like the shit's like, some kind of like, shit that no one's ever seen before. Like, we're right now at like peak superhero. I mean, the shit's like falling every time you turn around. There's a new show falling out, and there's a new movie coming out. So they need to do more to make their shit look exciting and build up the anticipation for it than just releasing these like it looks like Olin Mills fucking photographs.
Well, my other point about the photo that's of the humans, there's also something regarding the fact that some of the cast members just look like they look like they're second stringers from old TV shows.
Well, when you say that, what do you mean? Like they don't look like? I mean, the cast is certainly diverse,
Listen, this is the Inhumans, right?
right?
It's like the Avengers. You just don't have Iron Man, Thor, and Captain America come out, and Captain America and Thor just look like some sort of regular dudes over at Planet Fitness. Okay? They should have some sort of flavor to them. They should be individuals that are like the high echelon of the genetic code here. So when you see them, you go like this, oh wow, that's a face I recognize. Some of these faces I sit there, I look, and I go, they're awash in all the other million faces I walk down the street. You wanted them to be a standout individual, so you go like, wow, that's Gorgon. Ooh, that person's playing Maximus the Mad. And they have that like, ooh, stop and let me do a double take. I'm not doing a double take with see some of these characters, especially the one that plays Gorgon and the one that's going to be playing Karnak. I just don't. It's just boring. And I think you need to set yourself apart when you're going to be playing these things. They should be finding people that sit there and you go, they're recognizable. When they step on the stage, they light it up. They have that je ne sais quoi, Bill.
I
And
don't know.
that's,
Tell all of this from one photograph. Um, I mean, yeah, you do want to have people look, dynamic. I think that the guy who's playing Black Bolt looks perfectly fine. It's not.
I don't have a problem with Black Bolt.
The other people, I don't even know what their characters are about. I don't know that much about them. All I know is that, diversity is key right now. Everybody wants to feel like they have a seat at the table. So we've got the Chinese, we've got the black, we've got the white, we've got the young, we've got the old guy. I mean, and obviously that's part of the original team that they put in there. So, I mean, I'm willing to give them the benefit of the benefit of the doubt that these people were cast for a reason. And when I go to the IMAX theater on September 1st to see the 2-hour premiere movie event, whatever, then I'll judge whether they seem to be, qualified to do these parts or not. But for right now, just visually taking the photograph as what it is, a visual photograph, a picture of the team. The only thing that stands out about it to me is that Medusa's head is fucked up. And they need to fix it. Please.
I think you're being awfully generous, but I agree with you about Medusa's face. It looks very kind of mannish, very bitchy.
Yeah, she looks very mannish, and that costume that she's wearing doesn't really portray a dynamic look to it. It looks like you said, it looks like cosplay. And, I don't know if there's anything they can do that in post.
Right.
I mean,
you know my $64,000 question all the time is, does the release of this photo get you excited for the upcoming Inhumans product?
No.
Okay. I will agree. I will agree with you. Anyway, there was a second release of another photo from an upcoming property on, I think it's coming to Hulu. I think we've discussed it before in previous episodes, The Runaways. Well, they finally got the cast all dressed up. I think this follows the story of the children who are running away from their super villain parent. What did you think of the photo?
I mean, it looks like, just based on the photo, it's not super exciting. Again, you've got a cast of young people. One's got purple hair. I mean, these aren't really superhero costumey kind of characters, so it's hard to sort of judge it because I don't know anything about the book. But the premise.
Well, the picture release, like the Inhumans cover, is based off the comic book artwork. So I think that's like that's a classic set up pose from one of the previous books that were released.
Sure,
So
right.
for the people who read Runaways, that's what you would call a shout out or homage to them.
Right, I get that, but again, coming from a layperson's perspective, whose only familiarity with these Marvel Universe characters is that I watch the shows and the movies that are based on them. These are not costume characters, so they don't really look like superheroes or a superhero team of any kind. It looks like any other young, Teen Wolf type of cast, which I get that's the way it looks in the book. So
It's funny that you say Teen Wolf, Bill, because I mean, without getting into my age, these properties sometimes I want to be a part of. Like I can be a part of the world of Luke Cage and Jessica Jones and Iron Fist and Daredevil. You know, one's a lawyer, one's a detective, one's a billionaire, the other one's the savior of Harlem. I don't know how that's a job, but hey, whatever.
no, he
Okay.
got sweeping floors in the barbershop.
Oh, okay. All right. Another black male working in the barber shop, huh?
Hey, I don't
Oh,
make it. I just watch it.
those shows are a little bit more adult. Am I past the time when they show me like Runaways with some children, Cloak and Dagger? I mean, can I get into teen angst anymore? Or about having trouble going to parties? I mean, that's not my world here. I'm going grocery shopping this afternoon.
I
I gotta
understand,
get.
but I don't know why
Can I relate to this? Do I want to relate to it? What?
I don't know why it has to be your story that you can all relate to. That's like you're always telling me. It's like I don't have to be, a poor person living in a ghetto, eating government cheese in order to understand that that's, the plight that some people go through. Okay. Um, Marvel Cinematic Universe is huge and it's continuing to grow by leaps and bounds. And this is an issue that we might touch on later, but I don't know if it necessarily needs to speak directly to my experience for me to enjoy it as a show. Only thing I require is that they have characters that feel genuine and are emotionally engrossing for me, and that I feel, are worthy of me sitting down every week and watching 45 minutes of my time go by as I'm, getting into that story. So whether it's about teenagers or a lawyer or a guy sweeping up some hair in a barbershop, if the characters are interesting, I'm willing to give them, my time and my interest.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna just keep it real. I don't know if I want to watch some kids sit there and make goo goo eyes at each other and talk about doing their geography homework and whether or not they're gonna be late for school or whether Betty's gonna be taking them to the prom. I just don't know if I can get into it.
And you know what? That's okay. If you find something that's a property that's the Marvel Cinematic Universe property or any other superhero property that you don't feel like is worthy of your investment, then you should definitely not necessarily feel
You know
like
what it is?
watch
It's
it.
like Twilight. You know, part of it is certain things are universal, romance and love, but sometimes the packaging with some of these things they just can't get into anymore. Like Twilight, there was this, did you see the movies Twilight, all of them?
I saw the first one and I was done after that.
Do you remember the first one where it was just like, what's her name? Bella, I think if I recall right. She's hanging with her mom, and then Robert Pattinson's vampire is with her, and then the mom is looking at her going like, he never takes his eyes off of you. She's like, yeah, I know. And I'm like this, I'm just rolling my face. I'm rolling. I can't take it. I just can't take it anymore.
Right.
I can't. Because I'm sitting there going, that's just like stalkerish. That's just creepy. It's creepy. I wish I had a daughter and some kid would come in here and they'd be like, he's just staring at her across the room. I'm like, son, is there something wrong with your eyes? Why are you looking at my daughter like she's a T-bone steak? I'm like, what is this? Oh, this is romance in 2015? Is that what it is? Is that romance? I don't know. I just can't. It's like this new generation, whatever they're doing with the old like Tumblr and Reddit. I just don't know. Maybe I'm in a rocking chair at this point, but some of these themes, I just
All
They're
I'm
dead on
saying is,
arrival.
you know what? Give it a shot. That's all I'm saying. No one's saying that you should force yourself to watch something that you don't enjoy, but trying it because you like other Marvel properties and are familiar somewhat with the storyline of the book, that might get you through the door. And keeping you in the door, though, is going to be their job as showrunners. And if they can't do that for you, then you have every right not to try it, to continue to watch it. But I think you should give it a shot.
You know what? Okay, I'll take that. You're right, Bill. I will give it a shot. But that reminds me, in order to give it a shot, I have to have a Hulu password. Do you have a Hulu password?
We'll discuss this off the air, but we'll take care of you.
Netflix doesn't have a problem when we share our passwords back and forth.
They
You've been
don't.
living off my tit for I don't know how long now.
Wow. That's why I said we will take care of you. But Stars was something that we tried to get going this past week to enjoy American Gods, and that didn't work out so well. Now, did it?
No, no. And by the way, shout out to Stars for bringing down the goddamn proverbial like computer wall onto me, crashing all my screens. Okay, so they're going to force me. Stars is going to force me to buy their $7.99, $8.99 7-day trial subscription, which I'm going to have to do now because they don't have a business model like Netflix that believes in sharing, which is what should be all the values that America should be doing, sharing. I don't understand this.
I know. How dare they want to make money on their app for each individual person that wants to watch their shit? Now, here's the question I have for you. Did you not call your cable company and ask them for a free trial longer than 7 day period?
I did not.
You could still do that.
Okay, well, then I guess I will do it. I guess I have to have delayed gratification tonight. You know what movie I do have in my house after you leave? I'm not sure I'm going to be able to watch tonight.
What?
I think it's called I Am Not Your Negro. It's like a documentary.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, I don't know. It might be kind of heavy to be watched. It's only an hour and a half, but I don't know if it's. You know how I feel like a Sunday night before you go back to the salt mine. You really don't want to watch a lot of heavy stuff.
Right. What is
I mean, I like to have
exactly?
Chipotle and watch American Gods. Truth be told.
I've heard about this, but I've not seen it or know what it's really about. What is this I Am Not Your Negro about?
Oh, let's see here. Um,
You
I
rented
watched
it?
the
No.
trailer for it, and I have to admit that I was very intrigued. And I think, let's see here. Let's just get the synopsis. It's directed by Raoul Peck, and it's based on a James Baldwin's unfinished manuscript, Remember the House. It's narrated by Samuel Jackson and explores the history of racism in the U.S. through Baldwin's reminiscences of civil rights leaders, blah, 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 as well as his personal observations of American history. Um,
Okay.
it made about $7 million at the box office.
It's a documentary?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I watched a trailer on it, and it was very. I mean, as with any type of trailer, it should want you to walk in the door, and they get me in the door to where I want to watch it. But once again, after watching shows like that, I have to go into a killing spree.
Really?
So,
Really? Really?
Black Rage, Black Rage.
So, have you seen this show on Netflix called Dear White People?
What's that?
It's called Dear White People.
Yeah, I think I saw the movie once. I have not watched the TV show. That's a little bit too much for me.
What's it about?
I don't know. I haven't really clicked on it. I mean, you're the one that's watching Blackish and Get Down. I mean,
Wow. I don't watch The Get Down, but I do watch Blackish. Blackish is a very, very intelligent show, and anyone out there who isn't watching it should be watching it immediately because I think it's the best comedy on TV. That's my little plug for ABC. But I just wondered because it's kind of come across my Twitter several times, and since the words black is in it, I don't necessarily feel the need to click on it. So I just scroll on by, but I just wondered what that was about.
yeah, I don't know too much about it, and I would probably think that maybe somebody in our group of two should probably try it out and report back to the other.
Well, that would be you, since you're the one that watches stuff outside of your usual stuff. I really can only watch 3 types of things. So
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's hit the refresh. A lot of delays happening today. A lot of delays. So,
Yeah, I
Bill,
hope feedback
interesting,
that doesn't really fuck us
interesting
up.
news here. Captain America, the first Avengers director. You remember him, Joe Johnston?
I do, because he
Has he
was
done
involved
anything
with.
else outside of the first Avenger, Captain America?
Yes, he did the one of my favorite movies, The Rocketeer.
Oh, that's right. He was known for the Rocketeer. I like the Rocketeer. That's he's got some talent, that Joe Johnston.
I own the Blu-ray.
Well, apparently he is also. You see that you say it with some sort of smug thing, like there's only like two Blu-rays in the world, and you're acting like it's a Fabergé egg sometimes when you say shit like that.
I treat my Blu-rays like Fabergé eggs. Now, whether they are Fabergé eggs to anyone else or not is not my concern. My concern is that I love my Blu-ray collection, and I am very proud of it. So I like to speak of it with austerity.
So right now he is apparently been tapped to direct a new Narnia book. I'm sorry, a new Narnia. How do I want to say this?
A new Narnia reboot is what they're doing. Now, I'm a huge fan of the original Narnia trilogy, so I am very much looking forward to this. I'm also a Joe Johnston fan because I love both of the movies that he's done that I'm familiar with. And it's not really a reboot per
It's not a
se
reboot. They're going to
because
be doing the next book in the series, The Silver Chair.
right, but the Silver Chair, the book itself, doesn't involve any of the characters from the first Narnia trilogy movie set.
Oh yeah,
So
we're getting rid of those old. We're getting rid of that whole idea. We're starting fresh. That's what we're doing.
that's how the books were done. So it's not like they're doing this as like something veering away from where the original plan was going. The books were written about those three family members, and those characters are no longer. Well, actually, the Silver Chair, I believe, is a prequel to the Chronicles of Narnia, starting with the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. So, I mean, it doesn't. It's not like they're firing the actors and going in a different direction. They're just following the story as it was written in the books.
Can I say something? The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I may have to add that to my audiobook, to be quite honest with you. That takes me back to where my imagination was running wild, and I love the idea of the story being able to walk into your wardrobe and enter this other world where all these fantastical things are happening. Okay, and if memory serves correct, it's a favorite story of mine. Favorite story. So many good things about it.
Have you seen the Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, the movie?
Yeah, that's where I'm getting to.
Okay.
My point of the matter is, this comes right after we have Lord of the Rings. And by the way, I understand you feel differently. You can throw your 2 cents in there. This was after Lord of the Rings, which was very epic filmmaking for me. It took Tolkien's books, and I thought did a great job. I know every opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one. But it was very epic in what it did. And I think after that, of course, C.S. Lewis books got the green light because we're going to try to do the same thing we did for Lord of the Rings, and we're going to do it over here in Narnia. And I felt like it fell flat, like it wasn't on the same epic level. It became a regular movie for me. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, those were just regular films. They were like the Golden Compass.
Oh,
they were just.
How dare you?
You know what? Call it like it is. But technically, if these movies would have been like Lord of the Rings, we wouldn't be waiting several years to get to the silver fucking chair. They would have been cranking them out because they would have been hits. But they were middle of the road. And I say this, not the fact that some people might have liked them, but the thing about it, not enough people liked them. They didn't have that. There was something that was missing. And this is the same thing that happens with Titanic and Pearl Harbor. They have a hit, and then they try to greenlight something similar to that, but they throw it together, and they're missing the one thing you probably need, or heart, or epicness, or dynamic. I don't know what word you want to use here, but this was such a loss for me. So I'm hoping with Joe Johnston coming on to do the silver chair, that they try to sit there and make this what it should be. It should be like Lord of the Rings. They should be going something that's not run of the mill, sweeping scenes, grand, gone with the wind. They got to go big, Bill. They got to go King Kong style.
Well, I'm going to disagree with you about whether the film was a failure or not. Because something isn't found by an audience doesn't necessarily indicate its quality or its ability to please. It's not the film's fault always when the movie doesn't catch on the way maybe the studio wanted it to. Sometimes it's just that people just don't find it. Now, or whatever, people don't like it, but that doesn't mean it's not worthy. And the original Narnia trilogy I love. I love the first one probably the most. I do think it's epic. I do think it's magical. And I do think it's everything that Harry Potter, which is a more financially successful movie, did not speak to me as the Narnia movies do. I tried the Harry Potter movies. They came out the same time as the original Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, and I was turned off by Harry Potter. And I never went back because I felt Lord of the Rings gave that vibe and that story to me in a better way. But when Narnia came out, I felt like, see, that's what I wanted Harry Potter to be. So that's just where I'm at with that. So I'm happy about it.
Okay. I think I don't know if happy is the word. I'm very interested. I think it's a great franchise to make a movie, but I'm hoping that they do something along that lines. Because if it happens the way it happened for Lord of the Rings, we're going to get several more of those movies.
We'll see.
What are you doing with your phone now? Are you kind of tossing it across the room and to see if you can project your voice like you're some sort of opera singer? What are you doing now with it?
I am getting a glass of juice, and so I'm at the refrigerator, and I'm holding my phone in my hand, and it's probably hitting the cord or something. So I will go back and sit down.
You're moving around, and I can tell you're moving around because you're going like this. I'm giving you my opinion, but it's here, but that's what you're doing now.
But I'm talking into my headphone, so I don't know.
You're moving around. Why are you moving around?
I'm not moving around. I'm sitting down right now. I wonder, I don't even know if this microphone is working. I wonder how we really should probably test this next time. Anyway.
Do you know what I'm doing? I'm sitting in the main studio. I'm sitting in Studio P right now. Okay?
Sure.
I am not moving. I'm looking out along all I serve. I'm looking over my vast of estate right now.
Uh-huh. Are we calling this Pain?
What?
Is this Pain Manor that we're looking at?
Yeah, I'm looking at it. I'm overseeing it right now. I got my gardeners out there gardening.
Do they know they're getting paid in candy?
You know what? They're getting paid enough that if they don't continue to gardening, I'm reporting them to INS. That's the world I live in right now.
Wow.
It's on speed dial. INS. That's
nice.
I put up the letters. Strikes fear. I guess is that a racist joke? Is that a racist joke?
Well, I guess we'll find out when no one.
I thought I was just speaking the truth right there. I mean, that's what's going on nowadays, right? Isn't that how it's going?
If this is why we don't have a larger audience. So,
that's a little bit tongue-in-cheek there. They know I'm joking. You know I care about all my people. I mean, you don't care about all the people, but I mean, you know what?
But see, I'm an equal opportunity discriminator. I don't not care about particular races, or I just don't care about anybody. I hate all people. So, I'm equal opportunity offender.
There you go. Yeah, you're like the Unabomber. You're the Unabomber of entertainment.
Wow. All right, let's move on.
Point out that we lost Jonathan Demme over these past 2 weeks.
Yeah, that was kind of sad. I mean, he was like 73, so he wasn't like a spring chicken, but still, 73 is kind of young to die.
Yeah. Director of Silence of the Lambs. I don't know. I mean, that's what he's known for. It's kind of great to at least be able to do something like really that sticks out there for you, I guess. That's always kind of great to have like a little feather in your hat, right? A
Well,
little.
sure. I mean, Silence of the Lambs is going to go down in history as one of the, top movies of all time, I think.
Yeah. I see that our boy David Fincher is also back on board to direct World War Z.
Yeah, I don't care about that. I hated the first one.
Really, that's the movie with Brad Pitt there that sort of like kind of grew on me upon future viewings. So I'm a fan of Fincher, so I'm kind of glad he's back on board. Apparently, the one director that he was replacing is the guy that's going to be doing the Jurassic World sequel.
It's not Colin Trevorrow.
No, it's Juan Antonio Bayona.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know, but anyway, I was kind of very happy about this. Now, let me throw this third one out there. I don't know if you saw this story, Bill. Is that there's going to be an Anne Rice TV show?
Yeah, I think I don't care.
Why? You're not down with the vampires and
I
all
did
their
not,
like
you know,
sexual endeavors and
Interview with the
creepiness?
Vampire was big in high school. I remember like it was like the twilight of its time. But I watched the original Interview with the Vampire and I was not impressed. And then God forbid Queen of the Damned, which was a train wreck. Um, so
Who was that with? Was that with Aaliyah?
yes, that was the movie that they had to complete. Like they had to do the stand-in or whatever, like they did with The Crow, because she died in the middle of production.
Okay. Can I say something? I know we kind of get like sidetracked, or at least I get sidetracked with this. But this is why sometimes I don't like having like rappers or singers put in movies, because just because you're really good at one doesn't mean you're good at the other. And I think there's a rare percentage where sometimes you can be good at doing one thing and then you can do the other thing. But I kind of think of like this is like Rihanna. When I see Rihanna in movies, I think of like Aaliyah and Queen of the Damned. And she's doing that shit that was in Suicide Squad, that walk like an Egyptian thing, where she kind of looks at the camera and be like, "Why have you come into my lair?" And every time they start talking like that, I go, "Why are you talking like that? And why is the director allowing you to talk like that?"
It's not
That's not
allowing her. He's probably directing her
that's not a
too.
normal speech pattern.
Say what?
It's not a normal speech pattern. Let me give a rule. Let me give a rule for all movie people here. Okay, directors, when you cast a villain, when the villain comes out and the villain starts talking like this, Bill, you will die. That is an F. It's an F. There's no way you should be speaking like that.
You
No
have
way.
no appreciation for theatrics or melodrama. And some people do. I don't necessarily want my villains to just talk like normal people. I want them to channel their evilness through their voice and their mannerisms because it just telegraphs to you that these people are assholes right away. You don't have to go, is he a villain or is he a good guy? When he comes out and talks like this, then you know it's time for the heroes to kick some ass.
Oh,
I
oh my.
get it. It's like,
So what do the villains do when they're around the breakfast table, huh? When they get up in the morning to go make their morning poo, and they go downstairs to fix their breakfast, and their wife is just like, "What are you going to do today?" Do they talk in their villain voice, or are they using something else? Really? I mean, is this?
you
What do they do
understand.
when they're fixing their tea? When they're fixing their tea before they make their next plan? Are they always talking like that, or are they only talking that when the lights are on?
You understand that this is a heightened reality, right? It's not necessarily supposed to be reflective of the everyday Joe Schmo walking down the street. It's supposed to be larger than life. And
You know,
what do you think?
the heroes are larger than life.
Sure, they are. Yeah, they are. Batman goes, take Batman goes, don't fear them, fear me. Really? Come
No,
on.
no. When Batman's hanging out with the regular people, he's like, "Yo, Alfred, did you clean my shoes? I need my bat suit for tonight." And Alfred's like, "Master Bruce, I did clean your shoes, and here, have a cup of tea." And he goes, "Did you see the latest paper?" They're talking normal. Batman, Bruce Wayne is not talking to Alfred going, "Alfred, get my lemonade. Otherwise, I will punish you. He doesn't talk to Alfred like that because Alfred would look at him and be like, what's wrong with you? Are you crazy? Do you need more medication? He doesn't. Only the villains seem to talk in a way that's crazy all the time. Everybody else seems to have a normal speech pattern.
Well, again, I am not watching these movies in order to see normal people talk normally because that's what I see in my real life and it's normal. I
Okay.
watch the shit because it's not normal. It's
So why was Queen of the Damn a train wreck then? To bring it full circle.
I just thought it was a bad movie. I don't know what else to say. I don't remember it that well. Honestly, I just remember having a bad taste in my mouth when it was over, wishing I would have got that hour and a half
So
back.
you also didn't like Interview with the Vampire in the movie?
I did not.
You know,
Like, you know how you're always saying, like, you know, sometimes when they cast people that are big stars, you feel like the stars are overwhelming the role that they're playing and it's distracting for you.
yes.
That's how I felt about Tom Cruise in Interview with the Vampire as Lestat. I felt like it was Tom Cruise dressed up like a vampire playing in a movie. And I didn't feel like the character was really that strong that it replaced Tom Cruise
I
playing the
understand that.
character.
You know, Interview with the Vampire is like a very tough film for me to watch. Like, yeah, well, it had Brad Pitt also in there. I forget who the other actress was in there, but it was one of those things like I've watched it a few times, but there's just something that's missing for me that doesn't make me fully attached to it. And I bought an Anne Rice book once. I can't remember which one it was, and I started to read it. I just don't know if her material is something that I gravitate towards. I'm curious because I'm into horror and vampires and all such a thing, and I like to give it a shot. I just don't know if it's really going to speak to me at the end of the day. I think Stephen King's material speaks to me. I don't know if Anne Rice and obviously this upcoming Neil Gaiman either very popular writers. I just don't know if their movies. I mean, um, their book to screen stuff is going to work for me, but we'll see.
There's only one way to find out.
Try it out.
That's right.
I guess hopefully if it won't be on ABC or the CW, I'll give it a shot. But there's certain networks that are just like they're banished. They're banished from me.
I just think that policy is so stupid. I don't know how you just say an entire network is just something that you don't ever want to watch. I mean,
Did you hear that? You
I
hear
get
that?
shows. If you don't want to watch the particular shows, that's fine. But who gives a shit what network it's on? If it's a good show, it's a good show.
Did you hear that news story out there with the president that you voted for? I think he required them to. There was some sort of article I saw that President Trump said that he needs you to have, like, I forgot what department, but they have to have Fox News on the TV screens.
Well,
All the TV screens.
I hope that he enjoys it while it lasts because the way they're going, Fox News isn't going to be around for too much longer. Since they all can't keep their their pants zipped.
Are they just running around going like, "Hey, put your hand in my pocket, see if you can pull out a coin"?
I don't know. It's like that John Edwards thing where, you start to believe your own shit doesn't stink, I think, when you get certain level. This is not a political show, but
I really need to have this sound button that just goes unlimited power.
right. So, I hope whatever was going on with Bill O'Reilly's Peter, that it was worth the millions of dollars it's going to cost him. I'm sure he doesn't need the money, but still.
You think that if our podcast became like up there with the mothership, as well as like the Nerdist, if we should get really up there, do you think I would change? Do you think you would change with the popularity and the adulations and the chicks that?
I don't know. I don't know. I hope not, but I don't know. I've never had that experience, so.
Well, I hope I would still be the authoritative figure that I am, Bill. I don't think that's going to change.
Right.
The brains behind the operation. No, I mean,
All right, buddy,
I don't know.
roll it along. Let's go.
All right, let's get to hear why the people were sitting there going, maybe I just turned in for the Guardians of the Galaxy review. Shout out to Nadia, who wrote us and said that she was looking forward to our Guardians of the Galaxy review. And how do you, wait, how about I do this? This is the old one. Ready? Car crash.
Yeah, still didn't miss it.
All right. So we're going to get into our Guardians of the Galaxy review. How do you want it? You know, is it going to be spoiler free or not spoiler free?
Why not if we do a spoiler-free review? We've never done one yet.
We haven't done a spoiler free review?
No. If you are listening to this show and you haven't seen the movie, turn it off.
Wow.
Because we're just going where we're going to, and that's how it's going to be.
All right. Well, shit, then I guess maybe like, all right, I guess we need to get in our sponsorship before people turn it off then. Before we get into the Guardians of the Galaxy review, Bill, what did you think of our theater? The one that we...
I mean, I like the theater. I think it's a great little theater. I think it's sort of like one of those little tucked away gems. And yeah, I do. I enjoy that theater a lot. I think they give a good quality presentation.
We had a discussion about whether or not I'd be willing to pay an extra few dollars for premium seating where I'm away from other people.
Well, because the issue is that we had sat next to some people who were less than, what do I want to say, polite.
The guy had whooping cough. He was literally next to me. It seems like you put me right next to the people. You need to be on the edge seat where you're away from it, where there's no other human on your other side. I'm next to the person that goes like this the whole time. I mean, there's no one else in the theater doing that. Out of like 100 people, I don't know, there's one person who seems to be like putting his finger in his ear, rubbing it around, then going,
Not only that, but okay, let's say he has whooping cough or some kind of physical malady, which, you know, one would possibly think you should just stay the hell home if you're going to be spreading bubonic plague out in public, because that should be some kind of health code violation. But short of that, you know, people have physical problems. Okay, maybe he had some kind of tick or something going on where he had to move his hand around a lot, whatever. But the real kicker for me is that you just talk at full volume in the middle of a movie. Now that shit's just fucking rude. So I don't understand the problem. I don't understand why people, I think what it is that we're all becoming very isolated. Everybody's always on their phones. I mean, I have whole conversations with Kelly at work where she doesn't look up once from her phone. And I'm like, really? I'm in the room. I think the social norms are sort of breaking down, I think. And people are like, they're just not giving a fuck anymore. And or maybe they don't even realize that there are other people in their surrounding area. So they just kind of do their shit, which I'm all for doing your shit, okay? But I also believe that if you're in public and you're paying for money to see a certain thing like a show or something, you should just be interested in that show and not interested in having a full-blown, fucking full-volume conversation in the middle of a fucking movie.
You know what? Amen to that. I agree with you. I mean, it actually pushed me for the first time ever. I mean, we had a block of seats. That's a whole other story. But we had a block of seats available to us, and then I had to look at you and be like, Bill, I'm ready to move. And of course, I know you're willing to always leave the people behind in the dust, and you don't skip a beat. But for me, that was very difficult because I was actually just giving the opinion of like, you know what? I'm letting you know I don't want to sit. I cannot sit next to you any longer because whatever you're doing is disturbing me and ruining my movie experience. I hated to do that, but I had to.
Wait, but what? Here's what I don't understand. Why are you wrong? Because you quietly and organized way, without disturbing others, get out of your seat and calmly walk to another seat. Why is that so offensive to somebody? But his full volume conversation in the middle of a movie is supposed to be acceptable.
Well, because if I guess if I was in his shoes, maybe he didn't think he was doing anything wrong, and then all of a sudden, you might feel a certain like, oh, I'm sorry, am I doing something that you have to leave your seat for me? I mean, I don't know. I don't want
No,
to make
yes,
anybody feel bad about
I
something.
don't give a fuck. He's infringing upon my fucking enjoyment. I don't care whether he doesn't think that it's okay for me to move. He's lucky I don't hit him over the head with a brick.
You have no soul. You have no soul for that. You know, listen, I felt guilty for a few minutes until he started hacking up along again. And then I heard him talking more about some of the guest appearances that were being made that I made. I was comfortable with my decision. But either way, I mean, if there's an extra few dollars or we can have some sort of, extra layer of, seating to where if you make any set of movements or if you talk too loud, you'll be immediately ejected, I might pay an extra few dollars for that.
Yeah, I agree. We discussed a couple options about this yesterday over the weekend. One is that, there's a zero tolerance policy that movie theaters could adopt that, it becomes an issue of if you make one fucking sound, like some kind of like immediate eject button in which the customer who's being offended presses, and then they come to the theater and they just remove you. There's no question of, oh, I'm sorry, I was I too loud? No. If you can't adhere to the rules of social protocol in a movie, then you don't belong in the movie and you are kicked out. Questions asked.
What did you say yesterday? Well, it would be like that guy from the United Airlines plane.
Yeah, they should just come in like the fucking movie Gestapo and fucking drag your ass out by your hair. Kicking and screaming, that's fine. Just get him out. Yes, that's one issue. The other one, or that's one way of dealing with it. The other one is that they charge a premium price for people who can behave appropriately in movies. It's a $5 extra fee, like a service fee, that you can only go into the movie, or, they can actually combine both of these ways actually into one thing where, the zero tolerance policy, and then also that would be applying to theaters in which you are paying the extra fee to go in and sit there and quietly watch your movie. And there are no children, there are no cell phones. And again, if you break the social policy of that particular theater time, where it's like, silence is golden, we'll call it. The silence is golden ticket. And if you go in and you break the silence is golden rule, they come and drag your ass out like they did that guy on the United Airlines. Okay?
Oh God! That hurts so much.
Right, exactly. But, if you pay the $5 fee, you have the expectation of understanding that if you break the rule, you're ejected. There's no questions of like, oh, I didn't realize my phone was not on silent. Nope. If your phone rings, you're out. I didn't realize that my hand was doing this like ticking movement or my leg was like kicking. Nope. If somebody presses the panic button and you're identified, you are out. There are no questions. There's no like second chances. You have to go now. That's it. And there's no refunds. If the silent and golden ticket is bought, you sign an agreement that says if you violate it, you understand there are no refunds. And you're banned from this theater for 6 months. That's it. Zero tolerance policy. I think, Jay, that this is actually something we could probably make into a viable business plan, and we should probably think about talking about this further.
Well, you know what? I kind of like it because before, the whole $50 price point for getting the movie directly in my house, I was kind of laughing at it. But it really kind of ruins my movie experience. I would really like to have the confidence that I can walk into the theater to know that I will not be disturbed.
That's right. I mean, I agree. Now, I don't know if $50, that seems a little high in order to get the golden ticket. Maybe they could do like, I don't know, some kind of like, I'd be willing to pay up to $25 for a movie to see it that way. To have a zero tolerance policy theater. Absolutely.
Well, anymore with some of these experiences, if that continues to happen, I might just get my mind around there. It's just amazing. But I'm sure everybody else has this issue. There's certain theaters you like to go to, and other ones I'm sure you avoid for various reasons.
But
Crowds are too
honestly,
crowded.
anymore though, even we were talking before when we started this whole reserve seating thing over there at Westwood that people seem to be more well behaved because they're paying a premium price for reserved seats. Well, I think now it's like anything. Once the riffraff finds its way in, it's hard to get them out. They're like roaches. So when you get people who are used to paying the premium, then it just becomes the standard. Then everybody starts to behave badly again because they're not worried about whether they paid a couple extra bucks for the seat. They still just want to act like assholes in public.
All right. I appreciate that. Well, Bill, Guardians of the Galaxy. Boop, 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 boop. I mean, that's not this. Oh, you know what I should have pulled up? I should have pulled a flashlight.
Really?
Anyway, I'm going to see if I can find the song, and how about you tell me, what did you think of GOTG 2?
I have a very, very, very high opinion of the movie, honestly. I think it was
Okay.
really great. Um, I would say at this point it's probably in my top 2 or 3 of the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. That's not to say the movie doesn't have any flaws whatsoever. It, like everything else, is not 100% perfect, but it gave me so much um, that I feel like it really takes the Marvel Cinematic Universe to another level. Um, I'm a big fan of character development and character arcs over these franchise films. I love nothing more than going in to see a first movie and then following up with a sequel in which the characters are further explored, are further deepened and enriched, because it not only makes you enjoy that movie more, it also gives you a bigger appreciation for the whole story more. Because you're invested, because you're emotionally invested in seeing the development of these people's lives and where they go. And that's what this movie really excelled at, was taking this this mishmash group of characters that form this team and making them this family, and then in the first one, and then further exploring each individual character within that team and that family, and giving them new layers and new feelings and new experiences that make you care even more than you cared about them the first time. And that to me is a triumph. I mean, it just is. And that was the strong suit of this movie, is that these characters are now. I really can't wait to see what happens to them in the next movie, um, because they are so well developed and explored in this
Bill,
second chapter.
rarely do our opinions line up on some of these things, but they are. I am on the same page with you. I have to admit, it's also a thumbs up for me. I'm not really one for the Michigan J Frog antics. I'm still upset that Chris Pratt was doing his Michael Jackson dance at the end of the first Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm just not really a fan of those type of things. But this group of characters for a sequel, they're like old friends. They're old friends you were introduced with, and now they're closer friends. And you're right about the movie. It brought these characters out, and what it gives me is they give me, as you said, the further development of them, where you find out more about them, but they do it in such a very organic and natural way. I don't feel like somebody's talking down to me. I don't feel like the movie is slowing down for them to give me this background information. It just happens. And it's on such a, I don't know, it's such a personal level to where you're just like this. Oh, I can see where their scars are. But it doesn't ever slow the movie down. It keeps moving forward like in life. You don't sit down there and have this long conversation. It just happens. And then you're moving on and you just take these little tidbits of going, I didn't know that about you. But that's interesting. And and it's just cool. And the great thing about sequels is the foundation of the characters have already been laid. So you can just pick right up and get into the adventure and you see them hanging out. And I mean, I was impressed. I was impressed that the dialogue and how they wrote these character stories out. I thought it's just a thumbs up to the writers and James Gunn. I mean, for what the movie is, it's impressive, and it has to be for me probably one of the top. Let's just say I'm not going to go overboard with it because you know how I feel about when emotions are running high. It has to be one of the better Marvel movies ever done out there. For what it doesn't pass up Winter Soldier for me, but it has to be one of the best well-made movies for what it is, especially for a bunch of unknown name characters.
Right.
You know, in light of Thor and Captain America and Iron Man.
Here's what it is. This team, for me, I'm going to say, in a lot of ways, surpasses even the Avengers for me. Because the Avengers are great, and everyone loves to see them together and banding together to fight the evil, right? Okay. But the thing about the Avengers is, I mean, Captain America is, Thor is, Iron Man is. They're sort of like these archetypes. They're not really necessarily as fully developed as the characters in this movie are, and they are also sort of elite, and not by their attitude, but just the fact that they are what they are. Steve Rogers is a super serum enhanced super soldier. Iron Man is a ultra rich, technology guy. Thor is a god. The Hulk has gamma rays, and he's like 7 feet tall. It sort of removes you from being able to personally identify with them just because of what they are. With Guardians, though, not all of them are super powered. Not even maybe none of them are super powered until this movie, where we see Peter, come into his own. But it's more relatable because they are just really basically people that, if they didn't have green skin and came from outer space, which sounds ridiculous, but they could be people you could know. They just feel more human, I guess is my way of saying that. More identifiable for me anyway. And so it becomes more personal. I can feel things for these characters, and a lot of that's what's written on the page because they're so developed well in the script. But the other thing that I love about this movie is that they take characters that were in the first one that I kind of felt like were not necessarily going to be important to the story. Michael Rooker in particular, as Yondu, was sort of like the B grade villain, the sort of secondary villain in the first one, and it completely explores his character in a different way than the first time, and actually makes you care about him and see why this character has such a big part in this movie. It surprises you because it takes things that you didn't necessarily think were important in the first one and totally flips it around and makes you feel that they are, in fact, worthy of having a big story told around them.
And I think that's what the genius of the writing is in that, because the sequel could have gone in a lot of different, what I would call formula standard directions, with having just the father played by Kurt Russell be just evil and fight that and just die and be sad and then find some sort of cliche thing in family. But it was you're right. The turn of Michael Rooker's character as Yondu, it's amazing. I dare you to see it coming, and it's just something it's a different spin on an old tale, and it's amazing, and it has an emotional impact. I mean, the whole story in and of itself, I think there is a lot of emotional from the loss of his mom, not having a father, to actually believing sometimes what you want has actually been standing in front of you the whole time. You just don't see it. They take these concepts, which can be cliche at times, but they put it on you in a way, for me, that doesn't come like you're punching me in the face. It's very subtle. You kind of go over it, you see it, and they kind of move on. There's a skill involved in doing it. From watching all the crap movies that I see, there's a skill, and I think that for James Gunn, you know, I'm not acting like the man is Steven Spielberg here, but for what he's doing is he's reached a point in his craft for these two movies where he's hitting on all cylinders right now. Like he's hot, as they would say in like sports. He's el fuego. He's on fire right now.
It's clear to see why, before this movie was even released, Kevin Feige made sure that they had him signed on for the third one. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe James Gunn is both the writer and the director of this movie. I think I would like to see this be a trend that they continue on in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that they add more emotional depth to their characters. Like I said, sometimes it's not that they're paint by numbers, but sometimes there's a layer that you're removed somehow from these hero characters, and I think they can stand to add some more emotion. I mean, again, to go back to Doctor Strange, after watching Guardians 2 yesterday, and we came home and watched Doctor Strange again last night, I do enjoy Doctor Strange, but something about it feels a layer removed from the investment that I have in the characters of Guardians. And that's because, the character just, it's not that he's not well written, it's just that he's sort of, I don't know how to explain it, he's just kind of a dick in some ways at the beginning of the movie. And they don't really go there as far as he does make the heroic sacrifice at the end. And so that's how you understand that he's gone from being this conceited, self-serving doctor to being this guy who's willing to die over and over again to stop the world from being destroyed. But the emotionality isn't really fully there for me, the way it is with these characters in Guardians. And I hope that that's something that they continue to explore and build on in their future movies. Because I think it's and I think it helps people to care more about the outcome and where they're going with their universe.
Let's be quite honest. I think you have to give credit itself to. I think what makes it easier is that the cast of characters that they have, they're all shiners. It's hard not to like them all. I mean, they're a team, and so it's some of these are individual properties, and maybe it's not fair to compare them to, but as a team, I dare you to say, would you not? Who would you want to hang out with? I mean, would you look?
That's what I'm saying. I mean, even more than the Avengers, I think these are the characters that you would really want to be around most of the time. I mean,
right.
And then you even have things like, again, with the character that you thought was sort of throwaway in the first movie, Nebula. They have this entire storyline about her and her sister Gamora and their sort of sibling rivalry that they had growing up amongst an abusive parent. I mean, it's just fascinating that the layers and stuff that you didn't even know were there are drawn out and developed in this movie in fresh and interesting ways. And then they also take these characters that you didn't really ever see as, they sort of break them up into like subsets, like Drax and the wonderful addition of Mantis, who's a fantastic new addition to the cast. They combine Rocket with Yondu. They sort of island these pairs off in these exciting ways, and you see the interactions, and they bring out new layers of each other. It's really well developed and well done. And there are certain things about it I didn't love. We can discuss for a second about Yondu's scene in which he's escaping from the ship that the Ravagers have sort of turned against him on.
Yeah, we're not going to get into the negatives yet.
Well, I'm just saying, I mean, the movie's not perfect, and that's one of the things that bothers me about it, is that the hyper glamorization of some of the violence, I think, was not palatable for me. It's the same thing that happened in Kingsman, where I'm down with the movie, I love what they're doing here, and then all of a sudden it just crosses this line into something I just feel like it went overboard with.
You're upset over the violence.
Over that particular scene of violence, yes. I felt like if you're turning Yondu into from a bad guy into a hero, heroes don't behave in that way. They've made me care about Yondu as a character, and then they make him do something abhorrent, worse than anything he's done in any previous part of this movie or in anything he did in the first movie. Mass murder is just not heroic behavior. It just felt unnecessary. That
Okay.
of it.
Listen, he's a Ravager. He's a thief. Well, this gets into my point now. Now you forced me to go here. The Love Festival is over now. Thumbs up. But the Love Fest is over now. Okay, I'm going to dovetail it into my negative comment about it. But the point is, the character itself, they're bad people. I mean, this movie starts off with Yondu being at some sort of strip club whorehouse.
Okay.
Okay?
It,
He starts off at
being
the
sexual
at the
deviant.
strip club, having the robot turn off after he just used her for the pleasure, or for the PG-13 movie, which will be in my complaint about it. And then he sits there and's been kidnapping children for Ego, Kurt Russell's The Living Planet. He's been kidnapping children to feed this guy. Okay? He also is a thief, and they do all sorts of other criminal activities. Okay? And now all of a sudden you find out, sort of like The Sopranos, that he actually does have a family and does care for them and has a heart, but he does some evil shit on the side. He is still a villain. He's not a fully realized Boy Scout hero. He's got his warts, but he also does some good things. So how do you categorize him at the end of the day? He's imperfect. And so, yes, the only way you can maybe rationalize it is that these other criminals on the ship were going to kill him, so he took them out first.
Jay,
Okay.
there are layers and floors and all sorts of doorways for them to have gone out of without having been seen by like people on the other levels of that ship. He didn't necessarily have to kill all the people on the ship. I could see having to kill the people in your direct line of sight of escape, sure. Okay, but everybody on every segment of that ship had to be assassinated? Even the guy who's like 4 floors below, just sitting down trying to watch, Trading Spaces, he gets off? Really?
I'm sorry. Last time I checked, all the people that were in support of his character were shot out into space to die.
Yes.
So the remaining crew were the ones that were against him. And
so because, you are...
How did you think a criminal was going to act with that transgression? He's a criminal. How did you think the criminal was going to respond?
They're asking you to sort of see the different sides of Yondu. Okay, cool. And they want you to have sympathy for him and invest in him because, he really did care about Peter after all. And he was really Peter's dad more than Ego ever was. Okay. They ask you to invest in the fact that Peter is going to feel that loss. And then they have him do like horrifying things that you go, you don't want to have Peter have that kind of sense of sadness and loss for this guy because he's a fucking mass murderer.
I think it's probably the same thing that happens in real life. And I'd imagine as with all parents, we think of our parents in a good light. And they probably done some shit that they're maybe not proud of and that we probably as their children or offspring wouldn't be proud of. But we don't view it that way, and we just kind of push that to the side and choose to think of the positives of them and not necessarily the negatives. I think that's what the movie's asking you to do, in a way, of going, he had some positives, we're going to look at that, and he had some negatives, but we're not going to dwell on that. Now, the people who are going to probably dwell on that are probably the families and the members that he killed.
Right.
But that's not for us, because we're on the other side of that. I think it's with anything else, you have to sit there and go, the man's not perfect. I mean,
okay, that's fine.
He's not going to be the hero, and he's going to do shit like that. And obviously, it's not like somehow Chris Pratt is walking alongside of him, watching his dad wipe out everybody, which might have a different type of context where he's really like, yeah, dad killed them all. It might be a little bit weird, but he's just doing what he would do to get out and survive.
Well, but see, that's not actually right. It seems like his murder spree was extra. It wasn't like he was just doing what he needs to do to get out. He was annihilating everyone that had anything to do with being in that surrounding spaceship. And
Okay, let, let me,
and
can
not
I
only
add a
that,
point that if the man is a criminal, and if I were to put myself in his criminal shoes, and you killed my criminal friends, I'm going to probably eliminate everybody else with extreme prejudice. If I was a criminal, which I'm not, I'm
that's
just
fine.
saying.
But then you also have one of our main protagonist heroes standing next to him, walking alongside of him, which also puts a bad taste in my mouth about Rocket. Because Rocket's the Guardian. It's like thinking that one of the Avengers is going to just. I mean, part of the thing, and you always complain about this, is like with the Chitauri in Avengers 1 and the Ultrons in Avengers 2, part of it is that you can have them annihilated without feeling that it's a horrible thing because they're not killing life. They're killing, well, no life as we know it. The Chitauri are faceless aliens, but with the Ultrons, they're robots. And so you can have a lot of those just, disseminated without feeling like, well, I don't know about that necessarily being okay. And here we have one of our main, it'd be like if an Avenger, just walked around killing like every person that was in their way on the bad guys team. Like if Captain America just threw his shield and chopped off like all the Hydra people's heads. It's just, it's a bit much for heroic behavior. And I feel disappointed in Rocket, especially, that he would just, and not only is it that they're killing the people, but they're doing it in this like walk where they're like pimp walking through the hallway and they're like, yeah, we're badasses and we're just killing people. It just doesn't, I don't feel great about it.
Yeah, you're always weird with the violence and the celebration of violence. It's almost as if you weren't born in America. I mean, honestly.
I'm
I
just
mean,
saying, you're more offended. Think about this for a second, okay? You're more offended by Yondu having had sexual relations that somehow telegraphed by him zipping up his pants and turning off a robot. That is a line that's crossed for you. But when Yondu kills 50 people in the span of 3 seconds, you find that perfectly acceptable.
listen, you know how I feel about this. This movie is supposed to be PG-13. I had Vin Diesel talk about taking his children to see this damn movie, and there are kids in this movie here. Now, you talk about violence. I don't know if I'm really hung up on the violence, but what I get hung up on is obviously the sex because I'm from fucking America and we have repressed issues. All right. So you can't have a story which I don't want to be taking my kids to see Guardians of the Galaxy PG-13. And I guess it depends on what age we're talking about and the maturity. But they start off with the criminals being at a whorehouse with him presumably having pulled up his pants after doing his business on his robot. Okay, now as an adult, I can sit there and go, well, my kid can't figure it out. But personally, I don't want to have my child in a theater watching that. And then, as with all things, I've had this before. I don't know how, if you're making a general audience film, why it's necessary that you sit there and have all the words such as the word dick, douchebag, shit, asshole, all of these things have to be said in the damn movie. Okay? Or reference to the fact that your parents are copulating and how it works in conception. In these movies where you have your children here, it's too edgy. It's too edgy and it goes too far for me. And it makes me sit there and stop and go, this is just not cool. Because this movie is going to it's designed to attract all ages. It's not designed just to attract the 22-year-olds, the 45-year-olds. It's designed to attract the 5-year-olds, the 6-year-olds are going like, this looks like a really cool movie with cool characters and I want to go see. And then they're in there going, oh, douchebag, shit, penis. It's offensive. And I would think for Marvel and Disney, I would think they would sit there and go, this is a problem. Now, I understand it's PG-13, but that 13, I don't know. I find it to be a decay in the moral fiber of America. I'm sorry.
Let
It's
me
a
get this
decay.
right. You find, first of all, some of these sexual innuendos that are basically, you know, mentioned for maybe a second and then passed by without comment from other characters.
A second?
Or
What do you think these kids? These kids are like sponges. They're
Okay.
sponges, Bill.
But
They soak it all in. They see it all.
you don't see the, I don't want to say the hypocrisy, but the sort of double standard that you're spouting off about the indecency of the sexual innuendo and the talk and whatnot and the language. Okay. You're all clutching your pearls over that. But it's okay. And you don't have any issue at all with the heroes slaughtering dozens of people. That's okay with you. But God forbid they say a word like damn, shit, or hell, or mention vaginas or penises using the correct vernacular to describe the physical parts. That's the line that's crossed with you. Never mind
Bill,
people that just lost their lives that were not necessary at all.
it's like having some sort of respect. Okay, there are rules to certain things. Okay,
You mean like
it's
not murdering innocent people? That kind of rule?
it is PG-13. I mean, so there's a point where like there's going to be some sort of violence and shooting. I mean, this is what the movies are. I mean, these are the movies where they're shooting guns and lasers and trying to blow up people. This is something that you can't get away from.
I understand. I just do not expect my heroes to behave in a way that sort of glamorizes or even.
Okay, wait. So, do you expect your heroes to sit there and go when you have Rocket Raccoon, which is one of my favorite characters of the film?
Yeah.
Okay, when you have him walking alongside Yondu while he's wiping out all these criminals, all of them, he's just wiping them out with his little arrow thing, killing them straight through the chest, and they're all dying and blowing them up. While you have him walking around and going, "This is not behavior," then are you sitting there justifying the behavior when he's sitting there stealing the batteries and calling people douchebags, dicks, and assholes? Do you think that's also what a hero should be doing?
Yeah, because you know what, Jay? We call people dicks and assholes. That's what people do. People cuss. I cuss, you cuss, every adult we know cusses. Okay? It's an expression of emotion. It might not be the most intelligent or the most socially acceptable way of doing it, but people do it. And I don't think that you're going to burn in hell for saying you dams and fucks, okay?
Bill, that's the whole point. It's socially acceptable. We know what the rules are. Just because we all do it, you don't want your 7-year-old sitting in class going, fuck, I ran out of ink. Okay? Because we know that we go, you know what, we don't do that. It shows a line of demarcation that you don't cross. Doesn't mean you can't cross in the future, but at this point we feel it's not.
I'd rather have my 7-year-old say the word fuck or shit or damn than to stab 7 of his classmates in the neck with a pencil. Yes, I would.
Okay, I think you're missing the point here for a movie here. When I take my kids to see a Disney fucking movie, and let's say age regardless, when I go to see The Lion King, I don't expect fucking The Lion King or whoever it is, Simba, to come on and be like, you fucking animals better get your shit together, otherwise I'm going to come down there and slap the shit out of all of you and eat you. Okay? I don't expect that from my movie with my children. I don't think they should be exposed to that. And I don't think there's nothing wrong with that just because people swear out there in the world. Okay? People also fuck, but I don't think I need to have somebody in a theater, Rocket Raccoon, and Drax and other characters explain copulation to my 8-year-old. I just don't think it's appropriate. But I think when I go to the movie and have some sort of idea what I should expect, I would expect that would be in the movie. Okay? Like when I watch porn, which I'm not saying I do, I expect certain things to happen. All right? I expect certain things to happen. What I don't expect them is to sit around in their clothes. All right? Because I would be offended. I'd be like, what is this? I thought this was porn. And they're sitting around in their clothes playing cards. and talking, I would be wrong. All right, I don't go into movie for that. There's certain things, expectations you go in there, and I think the expectation for these movies is that type of shit would not be in that. I would expect that from an Expendables movie, not from my Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Again, we're going around in circles here, but the whole idea that you're offended by the language versus the actual slaughtering of people is mystifying to me. You have no problem. You're all upset over the language and the sexual talk, but you don't have any problems at all with the less than heroic behavior of slaughtering people.
It's not that I can't see your opinion. It's not like somehow I'm oblivious to it.
No, you just
I'm just desensitized. It doesn't really bother me that much.
Yes.
I'm desensitized.
That in itself, I find disturbing.
What?
That's disturbing. That you are more offended by the use of language than you are of slaughtering people. I don't understand that.
Everybody I watch from the Transformers and everything else, I'm surrounded by violence every day. It's out there, Bill.
It's not, but it's out there, Jay. But it's not okay. It's there, but it doesn't mean it's okay. Just because it is doesn't mean
you're acting like this is hostile. You're acting like this is the movie Saw. Okay, you're acting like it's torture porn here. Okay, it's
all right. Let's move on to our other issues with the movie. My other big issue with the movie then would be Baby Groot, and it's not so much of a offensive or a
wait, what?
What?
What did you say?
Baby Groot. I just
spell it.
I think Baby Groot's overrated. I think.
Oh, Baby Groot.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just think Baby Groot is everyone's like, oh my God, you're gonna love Baby Groot. He's so great in this movie. He's okay. I mean, the opening sequence, I felt, the dancing thing, they capitalized on that because everybody loved the dancing at the end of the first one. But it becomes one of those things where it's too much of something that you liked, maybe. The scene is too long when they have all the Guardians fighting the big thing in the back, the big background villain, whatever, alien. And then Groot's like dancing around, and it's cute for a minute or two, but the sequence goes on for like 5 minutes, and I just think it's overkill. And at a certain point, I think it becomes, yes, I understand that the idea is that kids are oblivious to their shit when they get involved in their own thing, and they, sort of live in their own little world. Okay, that's fine. But the fact that he was just dancing while every member of his family is like fighting for their lives with this alien started to feel a little off to me by the end of the sequence. And the rest of the movie, he's cute. Yes, but I look forward to no more Baby Groot. I look forward now that the end of this movie is over. They've shown him now as a teenager. I look forward to him growing because I think the Baby Groot shtick is for me a little played out.
Okay.
How did you feel about Baby Groot?
Well, I was never sitting there going like I was going to see the movie for Baby Groot to begin with. I feel like it's one of those, what's the word? It's on the tip of my tongue. What is the word, Bill, that I'm looking for?
I don't know.
Apologize.
Again, the sequence when he goes to get the stuff, he goes to find the fin for Yondu's head to help him shoot arrows around.
I'm sorry. I think the word I was looking for was gimmick.
Okay, yeah, it's gimmicky, and it's. I think they maybe tried to be too cutesy with it, and some of it comes off as cloying. Instead of being cute and going, "Aw," it gets a little irritating when he's like, bringing back the underwear and then the little rat thing, and then it's like, oh, come on, can we just get the fucking pin?
I wasn't annoyed by Baby Groot, so I actually was fine with this character. I love the opening sequence. I think it's one of the better opening sequences of a Marvel movie. Thoroughly enjoyed it. It really gets me in the mood to watch the Guardians of the Galaxy. As far as him
No,
throughout the rest of the
it's weird
movie,
for me. It's like,
he's part of the team. He's a young kid, and obviously they're playing it up for obviously him being a baby to do little tiny emotions. I don't think it was too much. I was fine with it, but I never went in with the expectation that somehow the movie that I'm going to see for Guardians of the Galaxy, Baby Groot should not be the lead character for.
no,
You know, that's my whole point. I'm going to
it's
see
weird. Like, even if,
Scrappy Star Lord, not Baby Groot look at the camera and kind of go, oh, go. That's just not any movie I'm interested in. So even putting that out there is not something that gets me in the seat.
I'm just
I'm
saying,
46. I'm not going to go see Baby Groot walk around there. Okay.
It is weird. It's weird because, I mean, if you were a kid and you saw your parents like fighting some like terrible thing, wouldn't you be like, either you would have one or two reactions. You'd be very upset and crying because your parents in your family are in danger, or you would, if he was going to be like, he's Groot, he's a hero, he would be trying to like contribute to the fight in some manner. Whether it was just, what would have been funny to me is if, you have Baby Groot thinking he's like kicking this little thing's ass, and he's like on the end, the very tip of one of its tentacles, like punching it as hard as he can with both of his fists, and the thing doesn't even know he's there because he's so tiny, he's not hurting it at all. That would have been another way to go. But the fact that he's just dancing around while everyone in the scene is like trying to slaughter this thing, I just feel like it's weird. Like, why would you have that reaction to the scene where your family is in mortal danger and is trying to destroy the evil villain? I don't know. Either have him fight the thing and not affect it, or have him scared of it and crying or something. It just felt like an unnatural action for the character at that point to be having. That's all.
Okay. I read. I used to read back in the day Common Sense Media, which kind of like has a thing for like kids and parents that rates movies or gives an idea as to whether or not you should watch something. It gives you a breakdown along certain categories like violence, sex, drinking, and things of that nature. So when you go, like if you read their website ahead of time, it gives you an idea of some of the things that you might encounter.
Okay.
So you can be prepared ahead of time. And I thought it was always such a good resources because sometimes you've like seen a movie from your youth, like with 16 Candles, and you forget that there's a shower scene where the one girl is shown topless. I don't remember that. But then you watch and you're like, I forgot all about this. But, if you're sitting there with your 8-year-old kid and thinking that 16 Candles might be good enough, you might want to question that depending on the level of the age or the maturity of the child. But anyway, I don't want to go too far back, but I'm reading over with this one parent who went with his child. Okay? And this is what she wrote about the scene that you're talking about. I do have it here. This is why we need to have a producer. Wow, did I just lose it?
Really?
Can you sing or something? Do a little jig for me, Bill.
Sure, I'll sing and do a jig. I'm not your fucking trained monkey.
Okay, I'm just going to read this part right here. And she talks about whether or not it'd be okay with taking their kids. Number one, high body counts in a couple sequences, particularly the scene where the executions and one with a special arrow zips around, bloodily shooting through victims. By far, the latter scene was one that left me feeling the most bothered. Yondu and Rocket, two characters who are supposed to be flawed, but ultimately, at least in this volume, good guys, break out of a cell together and then proceed to kill hundreds of people with smiles on their faces as a cheerful song plays. Yes, there's a high body count, but what is more troubling is the intense blatant sadism of it all. Rocket beaming as he shoots a machine gun, up and close personal nature, the many deaths as individuals are hunted down by a magic arrow, and contagiously happy music which invites you to enjoy the violence alongside of them. It is an extended, wince-inducing scene made more awkward and squirmy because it's not even supposed to be bad guys being bad. There are heroes doing this. I get it. I think a lot of some of this stuff is kind of lost on it if you will. I mean, certain things that I pick up on really bother me, and I think other things that you pick on, like, are just going, "What's happening?" I mean, there is the whole subtext here of the fact that Kurt Russell's character was going around the universe and banging chicks and getting them pregnant, and then when these kids got older, he was going to get these kids and then killing them. I mean, that's really what's going on, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're kind of like you could really get into the whole like what's really happening. But I don't think the movie is really meant for that. It's meant for you to just gloss it over. Oh, he's a bad guy. He's out there doing this stuff. But if you really think about it, you're just like, well, that's some sick shit. I mean, come on. He's really just going out there being a whore and then killing his own children. That's some Game of Thrones shit. I, I mean, honestly.
Yes, he's
But
a bad guy. Yes,
yes, but they don't. I mean, most of these films are really like. I guess I'm not defending it, but I think it's really you're supposed to. I guess I can see your point clearly, but I think it's designed that you just look over it like, yeah. I would hope you would have you would walk out or at the mature level be like, yeah, you're not celebrating killing the people. It's just that it's cool in a alternate dimension, teenage type of way. No, yes.
because the bad guy is the worst of the worst doesn't mean it's okay for the good guys to behave in abhorrible manners just because they're not as bad as the big bad guy.
Okay. So where are we at? Where are we at with this? I mean, we went over the positives. We went over the negatives. Are we recommended to take your 4-year-old kid to it?
I'd recommend taking a child that would be old enough to go see Star Wars. So 6 or 7 was when I saw Star Wars. So yeah, I think the sexual stuff and the language, the sexual stuff in particular, I think will go over most children's heads. It's not like they show Yondu, pulling his penis out of some robot chick's mouth. Okay, it's not like that. It's there if you understand what they're doing. As a child, I don't know how many kids would really understand that robot was probably just giving him some kind of sexual pleasure, the way they do it in the movie. The language is one issue. Okay, fine. But I don't think it would be something that I would not take my young child to. Because the themes overall are much more valuable than just those short little offensive things. Even the Yondo scene, which I do find actually offensive.
Okay, so I'm going to consider you to be with my hippie sister. Okay, you tree hunters and whatever else you want to call yourself. You turned out okay. I'm gonna stick with the moral fiber people, the ones that are actually holding this country together still.
Uh-huh.
I'm gonna go with them and go. I expect my kid to be a little bit older, high maturity level, because at least when he looks at me and goes, "What the hell is a douchebag? Can you explain that to me?" Or "What's a dick or an asshole?" Then I could probably explain it to him without feeling like those sons of bitches over there. And when he looks at me and goes, "What was that guy in there doing with his shirt off and his pants up with that girl who turned off? What was happening in that room, Daddy?" I'm like, "Oh, okay." Well, every time then, Daddy needs companionships.
So again, we've been on this.
And your mom doesn't have an off switch. Just like that guy's very lucky. He just has to hit a button and she just shuts off. But anyway, I would say a little bit older, but let's just say if you're over the 13 age, which the movie I guess recommends, this movie is just a blast. It's just a hoot and a half.
It's a hoot
I give it a 2.
and it's an emotional ride, and it's the perfect movie to start off what is now I consider to be the summer movie season. Although I do.
Now let me just say this: I don't need all my superhero movies to be like this. But for what it is and its genre and how it's doing it at the top of its game. Okay? It's at the top of its game. I enjoy it.
Thumbs way up. I'm going to give it at least an A.
All right. I can't disagree with you, Bill. I would like to, but I can't.
So, there's that.
Are you having some sort of like Pavlov dog's response when I do that shit?
What am I supposed to like salivate at the mouth or something?
Oh yeah, because it's the end. It's the end for us, Bill. We've reached the end of the show.
Well, I thought
There's no splicing. There's no dicing. There's no like, oops. I mean, there's been a lot of technical errors, but what the fuck? I mean, it's in studio. For some reason, in studio seems to be all some sort of like hodgepodge of a mess over here. It's like the Matrix. It's like it's like Zion. That's what we're like over here. It's like Zion.
we're gonna have to see where it goes because I don't know if this is even gonna record properly. So
What are you talking about? Record properly?
I'm telling you, I'm having some weird shit down here.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm the main hub of this operation. There's no weird shit going up in here. We'll see. We'll see. What are we gonna call this episode, by the way? And don't say anything with Guardians of the Galaxy either, unless it's some play on words.
I don't know. We'll figure it out after we get off the air because I got to think about it.
All right. The number one movie, obviously, for this weekend of May 5th through the 7th of episode 44.
Would it be Guardians of the Galaxy?
Yeah, it just looked like it pulled in 145 million domestically.
That's great. That's actually because they had started saying, the predictions were 150 to 170, which are way high. But then they started saying, well, it might not make 140. 145, I think, is quite solid, and I think it's higher end.
Of course, it was released every other place in the world, so it made 282 million in the foreign markets. So it's up to $427 million already in its first week.
That's awesome. That's great. I love that because the movie truly deserves that amount of money.
Yeah, and I think with the good word of mouth that it's getting, it's obviously these movies dip and tail, but it's going to make its money back. It's going to be probably one of the top 5 movies of the year, I would imagine, at the all said and done.
I hope so, and I hope. What I also think is awesome is that, I think Marvel and Disney have rewarded James Gunn with trusting him to write an emotionally engaging story. And, again, I hope that this is a lesson to them that you can allow these kinds of developments and people will still be invested and shoot to see your movie. So.
Okay. Well, the number 2 movie, which is interesting to me, Bill, is The Fate of the Furious.
Why is that?
Well, it pulled in just 8 million this weekend, obviously. It's been out for 4 weeks. I don't want to say obviously, but it's over $1 billion. The total franchise.
Okay.
$1,158 million. It's made $200 million domestically, and it's made $951 million overseas.
It's a lot of money. That's a lot.
It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money overseas. $200 million domestically. That's interesting to me. I mean, Guardians already has $145 million already in its first week. I'm just curious where that will end. Any more? What do you need to be? I mean, I know we were relying on foreign box office, but what's a good showing domestically anymore? Is it a couple hundred million?
I don't know. I mean, it depends. It's all relative to the budget of the movie and the expectations of the studio that released.
Well, sure. If you have a $200 million, $150 million movie, I mean, you rely on foreign monies. But I guess domestically, do you need to at least pull at least 200 million in to be respectable?
I think. Yeah, I mean, I don't think anything under that would be acceptable. I mean, as far as opening weekend, you mean, or as total domestic gross?
Total domestic growth.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't think anything under 200 million would be considered a contender for much of anything if your budget was high enough. I mean, if the movie costs 200 million, which a lot of these movies are ending up costing anymore, then obviously you have to make more than that in order to be considered successful.
Okay, yeah, it's interesting. I'm going to have to explore that a little bit later. The number 3 movie is The Boss Baby. I know it's one of your favorites.
So ridiculous.
It pulled in another $6 million, so it looks like it's total. There's some trouble with the website here, but it looks like it's made 156 domestic and about 278 million overseas for a total of 434 over 6 weeks. The Boss Baby.
I don't know. Maybe there's something to it that the marketing didn't convey to me or something, or maybe I'm just not on the page that everybody else is on. That would be a shocker.
Yeah, Steve Buscemi, Alec Baldwin, and Lisa Kudrow rolling in the dough. The Boss Baby.
Yeah,
Did
I
you
don't know
see
what's
Boss
so cute about
Baby 2?
a baby being a boss. I don't get the premise that much. I think it's
Well, maybe when you watch Boss Baby 2, you'll be into it.
maybe. I mean, it's odd to me that Boss Baby makes a shit ton of money, and then I think one of the better off-brand animated movies was How to Train Your Dragon, and then the second one didn't really do anything as far as money goes. I don't know why this movie would be such a draw when How to Train Your Dragon wasn't, but okay.
All right. Your number 4 movie is How to Be a Latin Lover.
I think I've seen the trailer for this.
I don't know if I have, but it pulled in $5 million in its second week for a total gross of $20 million over 2 weeks.
Not really a contender.
Okay. And your number 5 movie for the weekend of May 5th through 7th, Beauty and the Beast. A time as a tale as
It
old
was
as
old
time.
time. Yes,
There
and
you go.
a money-making machine like no other is what they should call the movie subtitle.
Well, it pulled in another $5 million, and Box Office Mojo is giving me a little bit of fits right now, but it looks like it might be up to domestically 487 over 8 weeks.
And how much worldwide?
Well, that's what's going on. There's something that's going on with. Oh, they're updating their site right now as we're speaking.
Oh, okay.
Fucking bastards.
It's still going to be over $1 billion, I think, from what I understood it to be. And this for a property that's 20 something years old, 25 years old, I think.
I'm sorry. It's $1 billion. It's actually got the same amount of money as the Fate of the Furious right now. It's like 1,185,000.
I mean, it's like Disney can shit turds and then let them sit in a drawer for 20 years. And not that this movie is a turd, but I'm just basically trying to say it's a bad analogy. But I'm just basically trying to say Disney apparently can make gold upon gold upon gold. All they have to do is pull out some old shit, readapt it for a new generation, and there's no end to the money this studio can make. What they're going to do next is take these Marvel Cinematic movies and turn them from live action movies into CG animated movies, and it's going to be a whole new generation of money. You know what I'm saying? It's just like there's no end to it. So
well, it's good for them because right now they have a couple movies in the top 5 here, with Guardians of the Galaxy and Beauty and the Beast.
Right.
It's a lot of dough.
Yeah.
It's a lot of dough that they've made.
And to think that they still have, 2 Marvel movies coming out this year. That's $2 more billion for them, and another 1.5 billion for the big top of the year, end of the year movie Star Wars. I mean, I wish I had Disney stock so bad.
Yeah, I feel you. I like to point out, like as I do as we're ending the wrap up of this, the Circle movie, starring Tom Hanks and Emma Watson.
Okay.
Yeah, it's made like $15 million.
I don't think I've ever even heard of it.
The Circle.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, well I've seen some advertisements, so it made $4 million this weekend for a total of 15. Luckily, at the budget, it's 18 million.
Well, again, not really a contender.
Yeah.
The big stars that are in it. I mean, of course, Emma Watson never has to work ever again a day in her life because I think she has like.
I don't fault the actors.
I
don't fault the actors. I fault the material. It's material. Nobody's interested in the Circle. I don't care who's starring in the Circle. Nobody's interested in the Circle.
Right. I'm just saying, like, whoever her agents are and the people who are surrounding her career are like on easy street now because she's got, I believe, a 0.001% of the back end profits for Beauty and the Beast, which looks like it's just going to keep bringing in residual checks of like hundreds of thousands of dollars for the rest of her life. It's like somebody just paying you to breathe. Every time you take a breath, somebody sends you a $5 check.
I can live with that.
Yeah, me too. Anyway, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 is a A+ movie. Well, I say solid A movie, and a great addition to the MCU. I think one of the best so far of the MCU, and I really can't wait for the third one. And now I'm going to go get dressed and get the hell out of here because it's after my time for departure.
Oh, we're gonna have to look this up later, but it said that Emma Watson got $3 million upfront for playing Belle.
Right, but she got a percentage of the back end from what?
Percentage, and they said if it makes the money that Maleficent made, which is actually made more than Maleficent, she could get up towards the $15 to $20 million.
Yeah, nice amount of money if you can get it.
I feel you. I think that's the way to go with the back end. I mean, if I was doing a Disney movie, I would be all about the back end.
Well, if you can get it, they're not like passing out back end deals to like every Tom, Dick, and Harry. You know, they're not giving those out.
All right, Bill. Thanks for talking in and out of your phone for a while. Shout out to our favorite fan, Melissa. Super fan, Nadia. You can reach us at populationthepodcast@gmail.com and hit us up on Twitter. At Pops7Cast. I don't even think Bill's on the other line.
I'm here. I can barely hear you though.
I don't know why you can't hear me.
That's why I told you myself screwy.
You know what? You can just give your 2 cents and then peace out. I'm gonna play this music for another minute because I like the fans to like get into the groove of the show.
All right, go see Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. You will not be disappointed. Our next big release is Wonder Woman, which is one of my 2 highly most anticipated movies of the year, or 3. So I can't wait for
How
that.
much are they selling the Wonder Woman Barbie doll for?
$75. But I'm gonna buy one. I'm not sure which one. There's several to choose from. So
Is $75 actually a fair rate, or is it a little bit overpriced?
I think it's overpriced, but hey, I'm actually thinking of buying the Kotobuki or the Hot Toys one, which is $300. So there you go.
Are you serious?
Yeah, we'll discuss this later.
Peace out.
Bye.
Thank you.